Welcome, esports fans, to the Overwatch Carbon Series. I'm Alex Frost Gill, and I'm here with Andrew ZP Rush and Robert Hexagrams Kirkbride. And yeah, we're here for day number 2 of week 5, and we've got a lot of fun Overwatch action. First of all, how do you feel about me using your full names today?
I didn't know his name before, so it's new to me. I've just known him as ZP.
Really, when we've been casting together, we really do just call each other by our online handles. I'm not sure if that's healthy or unhealthy, but that is how it goes down.
Well, and for me, it's either way, because at least part of my name actually is Gill, so it's worked out well for me. Well, you know what? Before we go any further, we do have... with naming anyway, we do have a lot of good Overwatch action left here in the OCS, and definitely today, as we're in the path to the playoffs, a lot of playoff implications on the line today. Every single game potentially could have implications for Team Liquid, as they need every single game to go their way in order to pick up victory as we are going in. I'm also really excited for the possibility to see Orisa today. I'm not going to say we're going to, but it is on the table. But before we get into today, let's take a look at some action that happened yesterday here at the OCS.
The hype is going to go down. There won't be a defensive. The crowd time came out right before he died. It was a little bit forced, and Ube going to get 3 in the backline instead. And already, LG Loyal big advantage as hype.
Well, for Loyal here, they're very much out of turn. They're good.
To get everyone back. Jildy's trying to launches himself. Grim was very good in this situation last time.
Oh, beautiful. Finds Ube, who was going to be a problem for him. Dispatches him quickly.
The Graviton's going to be traded out immediately. It is a hail of blue and red. Everyone breaking it down, but Agilities is the one breaking it up. Gets 3 kills off of the Graviton. That's okay, though, and we have a very quick Dragon Blade. Agility's already busted it out incredibly fast. Picks up 2.
Grim Reality, alone on the high ground. I've espoused my opinions about that one too many times. Someone has to answer him. He's not even being looked at.
No one cares about Grim, and Bible thump that all day long, but Luke drops a hammer, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to pull this back.
Pretty solid retreat there from Grim, sensing he was in trouble. Agilities now getting dash resets, taking over. That is 4 straight kills for Agilities.
Looking like they have sealed this. The reverse sweep is going to happen. Graviton in from Renegades. They're looking to pile on. Self-destruct in the back. Takes down 2. Comes to keep a self-destruct in over the top. And look at that from Jesus. Ends up taking up 3. The self-destruct by Jesus, though. Look at this. Self-destruct combo into the back line. It's another 2.
Set play here as the self-destruct comes in. Over top, Jesus gets 2.
It's a good Graviton to set things up. Self-destruct in the back. Goodbye, good night. Gets a boss early on. Here comes the self-destruct on top as Jesus makes it a bang. Graviton comes out here from Renegades. They're all in. Self-destruct over the top. Jesus, LG Evil, almost to the victory point. They're going to push that payload in all the way.
Welcome back. That, if you missed it, was the Jesus explosion and Grim Reality high ground montage that we just saw there, as that was a lot of what was happening yesterday. And we've got 2 more matches today, 2 more matches tomorrow, and then we're into the playoffs. Let's take a look at the standings come right out of the gate, because we do have 3 teams that have solidified their place in the playoffs this weekend. LG Evil, of course, remaining undefeated as of yet. They've got their final game tomorrow to see if they can remain undefeated, but Renegades and Immortals are going to be tied for second coming into day 2, week 5 at 5-4 each. Complexity only 1 game behind, and with an option to tie things up today, depending on how things shake out. Team Liquid, they're technically still in it. Everything has to go their way, though, as they need Complexity to lose everything, and they need to win everything, and they definitely, I wouldn't hold your breath for that, but LG Loyal, they're going to be playing the potential upset as they are at the bottom right now, 1-8. And taking a look at the standings, if you can, just looking back at the very beginning of this event. I know it's been a long time, but is this where we thought we would be at this point in week 5?
I'm a little surprised with LG Loyal, especially. I thought they were going to have a much better showing. But this is generally the top 4, I thought. I thought LG Evil was going to do very well after they were Hammers Esports. They looked very good. I thought Immortals would get in it, although I thought they'd be higher ranked than they are, that they will be in the playoffs. And then the last spot I did consider up for grabs. So kind of. I'm a little surprised that Loyal hasn't gotten their spot yet.
For me, there's 2 storylines here. Is that Immortals is at a much weaker tournament than we expected going in, where we thought they were candidates to be in that number 1 spot from the very beginning. And then conversely, you take a look at LG Loyal. We weren't really sure, but after week 1, we were very optimistic because they were able to take down Immortals in week 1. That was back when they were 1-1. They weren't negative record-wise, and then from there on out, the losses kept piling on in very heartbreaking ways. So for LG Loyal, it's definitely been a little bit of a disappointment.
Well, and another thing is complexity. We were not sure how complexity was going to do, and that's the only other team that I was kind of I would have put in maybe a different spot because they've shown up in the past. But we just knew that they were going through a lot of roster changes, and so that's always hard to guess where they'd be. And right now they're in the middle.
Actually, I think if you look at Complexity historically, even back in the Harblue days, this is about where Complexity has always been. Yep. Complexity has always been. They haven't been the worst team. They haven't been the best team. They've always been in contention. They've always been able to give teams good fights. However, Complexity overall still not able to take that final step and really compete for top-tier team in this particular tournament, in no small part due to all the roster changes that they've had to do over the last few weeks, where, again, even today we have a roster change that we'll get to a little bit later.
Yes, well, let's actually take a look at the schedule because we are going to be seeing them in match number 2 today. But first up, it is going to be Team Liquid versus LG Loyal, as LG Loyal is the first potential spoiler in Team Liquid's way. But Team Liquid, they're going to be looking to pick up victory here in match number 1. Complexity will be facing off against Renegades, and that is the match where Complexity could tie things up, or Renegades could pull another rung up the ladder on top of the Complexity and Immortals middle of the pile up. And then tomorrow, we've got Team Liquid versus LG Evil, and Complexity versus Immortals. And as we had mentioned before, Complexity Immortals definitely going to be a match you don't want to miss. But let's focus on today's match. Let's go into the first matchup of the day of Team Liquid versus LG Loyal. This is going to be a repeat of course, of a match we saw earlier in the season. And how that went down is it did go to all 5 maps. The first map was Kings Row, and partially due anyway to some Ube hooks and 2-2-2 style team comp. LG Loyal was able to pick up victory. Anubis and Nepal went in favor of Team Liquid, and then Dorado went to LG Loyal, and then finally Hollywood went over to Team Liquid in Game 5. They were able to pick up victory. They went 3 DPS most of the time against the 2-2 of LG Loyal, 2-2-2 that is. I mean, how have things changed since then? What are we expecting out of these two teams?
Well, it's no surprise that it went to 5 because LG Loyal, I think, has played more maps than anyone in the entire tournament. They always go to 5. They can't finish out how to close out maps. LG, I don't know much has changed with them. I think their ceilings and their lows have been a lot different, as evidenced by yesterday when they're playing on game. I said it, I went on record, that was the best dive I'd ever seen happen in Overwatch, period. End of statement. It was one of the cleanest fights I've ever seen. And then they start slowing down, and they slow down. And then the check marks for them yesterday were, can they finish fights? They did. Can they finish maps? B+. Can they finish sets? No, they just haven't found a way to do it, and it's confusing.
Well, the thing is that unrealized potential is much more frustrating to watch than a team that's clearly getting outclassed. If LG Loyal had simply lost 3 straight yesterday, I think we go there and go, look, they just have work to do. Yeah. That's fine. It was a good game by Immortals. The thing is that LG Loyal teased us by showing us some very great gameplay in the first 2 maps, and then they weren't able to finish it out. And from a fan perspective, from a spectator perspective, that's frustrating because you see the potential that this team has, but they have not been able to realize it here just yet.
Yeah, it makes it so much more difficult to pinpoint the problems and more importantly, the solutions. Like, how do they find victory? It's like, well, they just play the way that they do 50% of the time, all the time, and they'd win. And it's really hard to go too much further than that. On the side of Team Liquid, it's another team that's been fairly inconsistent, right, maybe in some different ways. But how has that manifested itself throughout the course of the OCS?
I mean, I just was listening to what you were saying and even internalizing myself what we just said about LG Loyal, but that's been Liquid's story the entire time too. Liquid is a little bit different because they don't have the fall-offs dramatically inside of sets. It seems like they at least bring the same game throughout a set of 5 games or so, but it has been a question of, can they have everyone play at the level they need to play at? There's been so many times, so many maps where 4 people have really good games and 2 have mediocre to lesser games. The times where they win series is when everyone has been playing at their best, most notably the DPS players.
Well, the other thing, too, is that Liquid has had roster changes as well, and also last-minute sub-ins where, of course, they started out with Louis, then they were down Rafa, and then finally it's been the last few weeks where they've had more of a solidified roster with Shatter in that DPS spot and Rafa now back with the team, doing shot calls, all the rest, no longer indisposed. So Liquid has definitely solidified a bit, and even the matches that they've lost, they've still looked pretty decent in. So I think Liquid would probably be in a much better shape if they had the roster they have right now back into week 1. I think they would be much closer in getting one of those playoff spots. So they still have that outside shot, but it's going to be difficult going forward.
It is indeed. Let's take a look at that Liquid roster as it has undergone a few changes. The main one, of course, being Shatter 2K. And we've talked about Rafa not being on the roster and a few of the other roster changes, as you had mentioned. But when these players are all together, it seems like this could be something they could continue to work with. Shatter 2K has shown outstanding Genji play. He's been very flexible on a few other picks. But Team Liquid, they seem to have found their 3 DPS setup in AZK, Shatter, and ID. And then Messer, of course, we've have been very prolific in talking about his strengths as Reinhardt. Also seen him play very strong Winston as that main tank, and then Dehang and Rafa rounding that out. They've got so much on paper. So what ends up falling through the cracks when they are being inconsistent?
Well, their inconsistency to me in a large part is on their 3rd DPS play, and I like him a lot as a person and as a player overall, but ID has been inconsistent. When he's on his Pharah especially, they can win games when he's running that Pharah. His other heroes haven't been quite at that level, and just across the board, he's been extremely inconsistent. He has great days and then days where he is just a guy, and at the highest level of Overwatch, you can't afford to have a roster spot to a guy playing like just a guy.
Well, ID certainly has great moments when he's on off-tank roles, but I do agree that the demands of the 3rd DPS have been somewhat elusive for him to fill. And I do want to note one thing here before we get too far on and don't mention it going into this game, but one thing that I find very exciting going into this is that there's a chance here for one or both of these teams to become fan favorites here tonight, because if one team does take that gamble and tries to run Orisa tonight and make it work in their compositions, I think that even if it fails, people are going to be very entertained because they want to see how this new hero will potentially work out here tonight.
Not in the same vein as the new hero, but I guess maybe this is my bias coming into it. I think both of these supports who play Ana would much prefer to play Zenyatta. And with the changes that we've seen with Ana's damage going down a little bit, Zen's spread and recovery time, especially on charge shots, I mean, Dehang hits charge shots like nuts. It's crazy to see. So both of these supports, and Hidan and Dehang, would prefer to play Zenyatta. We'll see if the patch kind of changes things up. We've been seeing more Zenyatta in dive comps anyway.
I'm really excited to see that. And as far as dive and triple DPS comps, Team Liquid has really been favoring those. And I think that it largely works on the back of the player to watch actually coming out today. Someone who, if ID has been a little inconsistent, on for sure and then off sometimes, AZK has really been standing out this event, and especially on Tracer. He has been playing Tracer in circumstances where other teams are a little bit more flexible, and he has been able to carry a lot of games on that hero. So he is going to be our player to watch. What else are we expecting from AZK maybe coming out of this match?
AZK can also run a very powerful McCree, so if you're going against LG Loyal, who likes to run the Genji and the Tracer on dive compositions, you can use a McCree. Of course, you're a big fan of saying it can't be the McCree alone. He has to have help doing that, and you're absolutely right. But if they end up getting forced down by these Genjis and these Tracers, he can run a good anti-flanker McCree too.
Well, the weird thing that we saw, at least against LG Loyal, is that LG Loyal yesterday was not making a priority of getting in onto the McCree.
Right.
So for AZK, maybe you look at that game tape and go, well, if they're not going to go in on Grim Reality, who everyone knows is a great McCree, maybe you can run McCree here and get away with it for a while until you get prioritized. Because really, you take a look at what was going on yesterday in that matchup versus Immortals, Grim Reality had a lot of space to work with, which you don't usually see. But if LG Loyal isn't going to prioritize a McCree, why not at least run that early on to see if it works?
Yeah, and at this point, you've got to wonder, like, do you pull out all the stops for both of these teams? Well, I'm very curious to see how that pans out. But let's go ahead and reset ourselves a little bit. Let's talk about LG Loyal, taking a look at their roster, as they have also made some changes, more recent changes, in fact, as they're going to be having Flippy, of course, going to be playing that damage-dealing role. Alongside Ube and very often Spree. He's going to be the one that flexes into that. Most often playing Pharah, and then, of course, we've seen him on 76 and a few others. And then we got Super Pluke and Hadan, and then the other new addition is going to be Reels. And, I mean, we talked a lot about this team and how they play in general, but if you had to pick out any specific players to talk about Who would you pick?
I've been pretty impressed with Flippy, to be honest. I mean, he's going to add a veteran presence. You know what you're going to get from him, but he's had games where he goes off on the Widowmaker, and it's been extremely impressive. I don't think any other team in the tournament has that ace up their sleeve in the level of Widow play that Flippy has shown. He's been able to string kills together. It's helped them a lot on assault maps.
It certainly has, and if you want to take a look at where Widowmaker play can come in very strong, they're not in this tournament, but if you were to look at what Fnatic did over the weekend where Buds was going off on Widow, had very consistent play, it at least proves in theory how effective a dominant Widowmaker can be. I don't think Flippy is quite at Buds' level, but he did have very nice moments yesterday when we observed him, so there is potential there, and sort of going full circle to some extent, but for LG Loyal, there is potential in this team.
Yeah.
They just don't realize it necessarily over a full 5-game set of Overwatch. And we'll see if they can fix that trend here as they head into their final game against Liquid.
Well, and my big question for them, as it has been a little confusing for them to watch, is maybe how Reels has been integrating with the team. Because when you're playing that Lucio, you have a unique position where you can potentially make some more calls. And so I'm hoping that as they're integrating him with the team, that maybe with prolonged exposure, their shot calling can improve, and we can see more consistency out of them. And this is going to be the first game where they can do that. And at this point, they're playing it for the fans, and they're definitely playing for. I don't want to say they're playing for their jobs, but really they're playing to prove something for the larger community at this point, especially against Team Liquid. This is maybe your best chance at finding victory, and so you got to think that they really want to pull it together in their second to last game, I believe, of this, or no, last game of this event. But either way, I think we do have our first map. They'll tell me if I'm wrong, I suppose. But it is going to be Hollywood actually coming out here for the first map. This one was selected by LG Loyal. And we talked about the possibility of some of these maps. And Kings Row and Eichenwald being the alternatives. How do we feel about them picking up Hollywood here?
Well, Team Liquid has historically struggled on all of the hybrids throughout this tournament. I think they're 2-8 or what my numbers look like right now. What I'm looking for in Hollywood is probably to watch Flippy come out. They've been running more Widowmaker on offense for this LG Loyal team, and then a lot of it always revolves around the cafe. I think it will probably be either ID or AZK on the Soldier 76 when they have to run it there, so I'm looking at that early on as well. But you can be running a Zenyatta in these dive comps too. Hollywood, a very dive-friendly point. Hollywood's actually one of the first points that we saw dive on, where teams really like to utilize it to get into Cafe.
Yeah, we saw it dive very heavily on Hollywood to get through point A. We saw it very heavily on Anubis for that point A, and dive has sort of proliferated throughout the scene from there. One thing that is worth noting here, though, is that LG Loyal definitely had trouble controlling the high ground the last time we saw them here in Hollywood, where, again, maybe it's just Grim Reality's cloak of invisibility, but Grim was up there very much uncontested. So what I'd like to see from LG Loyal tonight is at least recognizing that and having some plan in place for, hey, if there's a soldier or something on top, what are we going to do to deal with it? Because ignoring it did not work out when they were up against Immortals.
And just the stakes for this match, too, because I mentioned it a bit last night, with LG Loyal, this being their last match of the tournament. Last night, they were so close to turning the corner for me, and I mentioned the perception of teams can change so quickly in Overwatch. I was ready to buy back in on LG Loyal based on how dominant they were on the first two maps. And they re-solidified their position of a conundrum of a team by throwing away the last bunch of maps. So they still can change perceptions here if they can put together a set where they looked as dominant as they did yesterday. It has been the case so far, and also for Liquid. They do still have playoff hopes and chances here. If they win tonight and Complexity loses, then it all goes down to tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Liquid, though, I mean, you just come out and try to play as strong as you can, because it is still not something you can bet on. Like I said, literally every game has to go in their favor, and they have to play LG Evil tomorrow, which is going to be diplomatically spoken as an uphill battle. But before we go into this first map, I do want to remind everyone that Blizzard, they've given us an amazing game that we can watch and cast and play, but they've also given us specifically some amazing swag to give away to you, our viewers. And so if you would like a shot at that and a shot to be shouted out on stream today, make sure you're on Twitter following @GameCarbon and tweeting @GameCarbon with your favorite plays as they're happening with the hashtag OCSPlays for your shot at getting a nice backpack full of swag along with your shot at being on stream. Once again, that's tweeting at Game Carbon with the hashtag OCS Plays. And with that, we're about to go into Hollywood. Any final thoughts before we dive into Overwatch?
I did just want to add on to your promotional message there and let people know that having a baby Winston in your life is absolutely life-changing. I know that since Gil has been near and around he has been inseparable. It actually takes a front seat in his car when he drives home, so definitely get in on that.
It's going to be really difficult to let him go, as he will be adopted by one of you, our lovely fans. I'm just keeping him company while the tweets come in. Well, here we are on beautiful Hollywood Goldshire Studios. And they've got a couple different things coming down the pipeline. We'll never actually see these movies probably, but I'm going to give it over to you, gentlemen, for some Overwatch.
A lot of good stuff in those swag bags, too. There's scarves, which we could probably use today, a little bit overcast out, but we're in sunny Hollywood. There's hats that I can't wear anymore because I'm still of the age where I want to bend the brim on hats, which apparently is not a thing anymore. Apparently, brims are supposed to be as stiff and straight as humanly possible. There's like a nice little curve in my brims, but do with it what you will when you win your swag. It's not mine to criticize. I will silently judge you, though, as I do with all things. We might be seeing some Orisa here, but it might just be them messing with us. You'd think at one point we might see it tonight, but some pro teams are a little slow to adapt new heroes.
I think LG Loyal is more likely to run it than Team Liquid would be here, because for LG Loyal, they have literally nothing to lose. For them, all they can do is play spoiler the Team Liquid. Team Liquid, of course, still wanting to keep their playoff hopes alive, probably going to keep it a little bit more standard. And you take a look at Team Liquid and what they're running here. There is no Ana in sight. They're running the Zen, so they're running a Zen-powered dive. Perhaps a little bit different here than what we used to see from them.
This is pure dive, and we did talk about some of the changes that happened to Ana and Zenyatta that might make Zen a little more popular in these compositions. So far, coming in over the top, trying to get damage. Bloodless.
Well, it's Bloodless, but ID going into the cafe, looking for that first pick off his fair. In a great position here early on, looking for Ana, and Lucian picks off both. It's a double kill on the both supports as ID gets to town. No one enjoying their coffee right now.
That cafe has been evicted. The cafe is closed. No more espresso this evening. Ube is going to come in just for some stall, but that will not last long as Shatter gets the better part of that engagement. That dive worked out really well. That splash damage rocket taking about those both supports, and then he was just able to hammer in rockets in the backside of Pluk, who did not turn around. They will change up some things, though, going to a more dive-oriented defense as LG Loyal.
You know, the real sad part is that they probably paid about $15 per latte just to get exploded in the face by a Pharah. So they got pain on multiple levels.
It's all part of the experience. Personally, I can't enjoy coffee without ballistics being fired my way, but that is just me. They do have some pulse bombs up. That is going to be AZK looking for it. They need to prioritize high ground as the defense has already set up. Now giving up that high ground, getting aggressive, LG Loyal.
Ube going into backline, looking for those support kills in the back, diving the Lucio, gets Rafa and the hang. And it's been a good game here so far for DPS heroes getting on the supports. And this time goes in favor of LG Loyal as they fully push Team Liquid back.
There's the horn. That is a full team kill, not even having a chance to try to take this high ground. Very aggressive from Loyal, seeing an opening and taking it. They did burn their ults there on the way through, which means that Shatter on the swing back will have his own Dragon Blade, but they do have to find a way to get to high ground. I do like this from ID going on to the Diva. They're going to run double dive tanks.
We'll see how Ube deals with this. Ube right now just looking at the back and takes down Rafa again. Ube, the support assassin right now on the Genji, and LG Loyal trading out very efficiently here. They do lose Spree pretty early on to Shatter, is doing the very same thing to the LG Loyal backline. And now he's a Dragon Blade here, Hex, where he can use to finish this off. And here comes the blade from Shatter. Gets one, picks up two. Shatter has 4 kills on this push here so far. Make it 5.
Shatter doing the best to put a team on his back, and Ube looked decent there overall, only to be outdone by Shatter. They will get some free push on this cart now. Hedan will have Transcendence up, still a Pulse Bomb up for Flippy, and Reels another support ultimate and Sound Barrier as the defense is going to be loaded up here. ID will momentarily have a chance to get over the top with a Destruct, which we saw to have great effect yesterday.
Well, the dive is coming in here. Ube and Flippy getting right to the back. Both supports from Liquid down again. And Shatter trying to pull it back, picks up 2. Liquid not out of this fight here just yet, but they certainly don't have sustained the stay in here for very long. ID gonna get knocked out of the mech, and yet they're holding somewhat firm. The problem is that the defense does have a bit of an advantage respawn-wise getting back into here, so I'd expect Liquid to pull back at least a little bit. But no, they're coming back in. We have Rafa back in the fight. They sound barrier, and they're going to go in even harder here. We'll see if Ube can punish him in the back line as Spree pulls that attack visor.
Spree takes down AZK, and Flippy able to take down a desuited D.Va. They're Rafa trying to bring it back. A very aggressive Lucio, as we've noted before, will show up in the kill feed more often than some others, but now he is all alone. No, Lucio is an island. He is killed for it instead. Defense will hold strong here. Now looking to get some poke. Liquid is reaching this critical mass of having enough ultimates to push through. Again, the self-destruct can be so critical on this stage of the map coming up over the corner of buildings.
Well, and for tools coming in for LG Loyal in this next fight, they really only have the Dragon Blade to hold this back. A lot of things that can ruin Ube's day as he goes in for it, but he's gonna go to that back line. Both Genjis dropping the Dragon Blade. Ube looking for Hidan here in the back. Will just go to the back line, take down Dehang. That's gonna be 3 kills there from Ube before he falls in that fight.
A Genji battle for sure is what Hollywood has been so far. It's been Shatter v Ube, relatively even there. Ube got the better part of that engagement, but Shatter is still going, able to take down Hidan there. Mezzer does find a Tracer to punch away before he's taken down by Spree. So far, LG Loyal getting the better trades of these fights, and their spawn is closer, so Liquid's gonna have to overwhelm them.
Well, let's just be clear about that last fight. That was a huge win for LG Loyal because you looked at the ultimates coming in. Team Liquid did not have that much, LG Loyal did not have that much in the way of resources.
Right.
Team Liquid was loaded for bear. Team Liquid converts all the ultimates into a big nothing, in large part due to Ube. Now, Ube out of this fight immediately taken down by Shatter as Mezar and Shatter working together to remove the presence of LG Loyal from the high ground, and they're going to do just that.
The high ground is cleaned up by Mezzer up over the top. ID Dud coming on his D.Va as well to give a little more assistance there. The Winston will Primal Rage, but that leaves his backline relatively exposed. Hidan goes down. There goes Spree. Shatter's still going off here. AZK's been somewhat quiet, but getting kills at the right time. Pluke able to take down Rafa, though, so some of the support now out of it for Team Liquid. LG Loyal did drop the beat, and now they're bringing it back.
LG Loyal has been able to stop Liquid from getting decisive team fights here. Liquid, even if they get the first 2 or 3 kills, for whatever reason, is not able to deal with the flankers of LG Loyal, where it was Ube in the last fight. This time, it was more Flippy. And time now starting to become a real problem for Team Liquid. They're down to their final minute left remaining. A lot is going to be on Shatter here to get a Dragon Blade into the back, but so many options from LG Loyal to stop him, including a Transcendence, which can negate the Dragon Blade outright.
They've had no notable combinations so far this game. Dehang's nano boosts have been somewhat invisible going for this Liquid offense. They will Sound Barrier initiate last fight.
Here comes Shatter, gonna be looking for that Dragon Blade, pulls it out, goes into Spree, who has attack visor. Spree just gonna give him some space, and Shatter gets nothing. Taken down by Pluke, who was there at the protection. And now Spree going into the back line, getting booped and bopped around. But it's 5 kills here from LG Loyal, removing Liquid from the point entirely. We're down to our last 15 seconds, and I'm not even sure if Liquid's gonna be able to touch this point again.
It's going to be difficult for them. It is a long walk. All those silhouettes that you see in the distance, those little red dots, have to get to the cart. They will be eating entry damage from shurikens. Maybe this Tracer can get there. They were unable to finish her off. It's going to be close. They will touch the cart just barely, but Fluke takes down AZK for it.
Luke getting in there for LG Loyal. It's the last remnants of Team Liquid trying to stall this out and look for a miracle, but LG Loyal very consistent in just removing them. Very difficult for Liquid to actually get anything going there in the situation they're in, and that is going to be a hold on second for LG Loyal, and pretty convincing stuff from LG Loyal overall as well, where even when they were losing major parts of their team, they were able to bring those team fights back. Conversely, for Team Liquid, they weren't doing a great job of finishing their plate. If you get fights where you have a 1 to 2 man advantage, you really do need to finish that out solidly. Let LG Loyal back in multiple times is somewhat of a failing here on Team Liquid's part.
I absolutely agree. Just an unremarkable game pretty much across the board for Team Liquid, outside of Shatter, who had his moments, and then the very early stuff from ID, but not seeing the nano combos that we're used to seeing, not seeing just big plays from anyone outside of that. It looked like a flat effort from Team Liquid, to say the least, aside from that first dive, which worked out very well. So Hollywood will not tie. They just have to get the cards a little further than middle of Westworld phase on Hollywood, and that will be LG Loyal taking the first map. Their dive has looked very, very good at times. Perfect at times, I dare say. They will be queued up on it now for their offense.
Even going back to, I think, week 2 it was, where LG Loyal went in on Dorado and had one of the cleanest Dorado takes we've seen. We know that they have points where they can be incredibly coordinated on their dive, especially with Spree on the Pharah. They just don't find need that level of coordination all the time. Meanwhile, here you take a look at Team Liquid. Really, their best chance of taking this map now is getting that hold on first, which is certainly easier said than done, especially with what they're running. I would say if there's any factor that needs to be more of a factor here, it's probably AZK, where AZK, when Team Liquid has been doing well, has monstrous games. He was very quiet on the offense that they just had, so maybe it was just the way that LG Loyal was playing, but AZK is going to have to find a way to get a little bit more contribution going into this next round.
Little bit interesting to see that Dahang had switched to Ana after first phase, and Hidan stayed on Zenyatta the entire game. He's going to be on Zenyatta, still Ana for Dahang on the other side of things. A lot is going to come down to ID here, who's had mixed performances on Hitscan, on Soldier specifically. Can he get the damage in and the kills they need from that cafe, or does he get dived on immediately? He is up there. They do see him taking damage. They look like they want to rotate around, maybe leave the Pharah back. This is something that Pharah brings to the dive, is a different angle.
It does bring a different angle. I will say for Liquid, I think there's a lot of pressure here on ID to shut things down. They don't have a hook threat or anything like that, so they're going to have to earn their kills a little bit more severely here. Still, the fight is underway. Spree over the top, not focusing the sports like ID did, instead just suppressing anyone he sees on the point. Looking for that Lucio kill, but has to reload, so it's not super dominating from Spree here just yet. The rest of Team Liquid just sort of keeping LG Loyal back and almost ignoring Spree.
It's been very slow. Hidan does take down AZK, who thought he was going to get a free Zenyatta in the backlines. That is not going to be the case against his Zenyatta of his level. They are trading out kills. Again, this is when Loyal struggles, the time to kill being way too long, the fight not happening quickly and decisively, just kind of meandering and poking about.
Well, what we need to see here, we need to see Fluke, Spree, and Ube working together far more coherently there, because Spree was sort of off on his own in the middle of nowhere, not really targeting anything else anyone was on. Here comes the next fight. Ube to the back line, going to get some degree of free damage from the tanks, but is in rough shape after that bound, and is just gunned down in the back. Ube got zero health there, Hex.
It was a little discoordinated. They had the Winston who jumped in and was on two front targets. Then Ube tried to get to the backline target, but they just simply flipped around and got him. A nice chase will take down Hidan late there as Reels also fell, so that's a full reset. Liquid going to be in position to hold this. Upcoming ultimate would be Ube's Dragon Blade Transcendence. They can work well together now that Zenyatta is Zoomyatta able to keep up with the Dragon Blade, but they're going to have to push into a Liquid team with most of their ultimates ready.
Liquid is very well positioned right now in terms of their ultimate economy. They are going to have just about everything up here for the next fight. And we'll see what LG Loyal decides to burn here, but they very well could burn both the Transcendence and Dragon Blade, and they're going to do just that. Here comes Ube, moving into ID, going to be stymied by the Nano Boost early on, and Ube getting very little done here as ID punishes, takes Spree out of the sky, and that explosion from Shatter absolutely ending the fight before it even begins.
A beautiful Earth Shatter from Mezzer late too, also knocking people down, able to clean up that fight. They did have to expend a few ultimates there, but will win that fight decisively. ID still has his up as well.
Well, the problem there for LG Loyal is that they threw ultimates into more ultimates of Team Liquid, so both teams equalize out, but Team Liquid ends up fully on top. You can't ask for a better fight in this situation. Spree holding on to that barrage, going to find it difficult to get a whole lot done without a big distraction. Fluke leaping in, but he's not leaping in with Fluke right away. Now the Sound Bear comes in, he's going to go to the back line. That should be it for Dahang if he lands his next rocket, and Dahang does fall. Barrage coming in from the back, and ID pulls it back with the Tac Visor from the other end. It was looking good for Spree, but ID being the equalizer. Still though, Flippy getting some of the cleanup here on set point, now firmly in LG Loyal's favor as Team Liquid down to just AZK trying to find any way of delaying, but pretty hard to do at this point.
These uneven fights with a Zenyatta up can be very difficult to pull back because you're the only target up there, so of course you're going to be discorded. You're going against a full team. A good job of Stall so far to buy some time for his team to get back, but they are not going to be able to get through the cafe just yet. They are close. They do capture first point despite the late efforts of ID, who will give his life for it.
3 minutes left for LG Loyal now to bring this payload to most of second point here, but they don't even have to get all the way to the end to win this map cleanly. So despite Team Liquid putting on a pretty good defense to start things out here, they're still in a rough shape and actually holding back LG Loyal from finishing out the map. Of course, you are going to see the yellow box of victory here in just a moment, and they don't have to go very far.
No, not at all. It's not even close to second point. Generally around the first bend is what we're looking for here to get there. One big fight, given all the free push that they're getting right now, could be enough for them to get there in good position. That's what they're setting up for now as Dragon Blade's at the ready.
Well, here comes Ube, holding on to Blade. He's going to pull it out, supports in his sights, looking for Dahang, and no, just gunned down by ID instead. Team Liquid, they dove in a little bit earlier in that fight, and Ube was trying to make up for lost time, not able to make it happen as Liquid, a little bit more aggression in them than we generally see, able to force LG Loyal back.
Not letting the team set up to what they want on offense was a very smart move. 3 had already gone down by the time that Dragon Blade came out. Perhaps would be better off staying in its sheath there. LG Loyal, though, still has some chances here. As you mentioned, about 2 minutes left to go. They're getting a little more free push. Destruct comes in over the top, does get reels.
It's a nice help to sort from Shadow that put Liquid on a better foot here. Hedan going in deep, uses the Transcendence, but the fall through, not necessarily there. And ID gonna try and turn this around, but ID falls immediately. Doesn't get anything off that attack visor because of Hedan shutting him down. And suddenly, here comes LG Loyal, piercing through the Liquid backline after ID falls. And now, they are on the verge of bringing this to the yellow box victory. Liquid going to have a very scattered last chance defense, but they're going to be running into Spree's attack visor.
Hedan's Zenyatta is an absolute monster. He has been getting kill after kill on this, also keeping his team alive, discording the correct targets. The final push coming in now. Soundbarrier goes off immediately.
Soundbarrier goes off as Spree just gunning down Team Liquid as they try and get back to that point. That's how powerful high ground attack visor can be. Every kill going the way of LG Loyal here as Team Liquid looking like they're going to fall here in Hollywood. The yellow box victory is reached, and it's going to be LG Loyal taking map number 1.
Not a big surprise. LG Loyal, not as dominant as we saw them yesterday. Not the fights as decisive. A few errors here and there. I think a lot of their success does depend on Ube's Genji because he's had games where he's a world beater on Genji and games where he can get picked off early. Yesterday, specifically on Hollywood, he had a pretty poor showing on Genji and they ended up having to give up this map. But I think as Loyal goes, so does Ube. Those two very tied together. Earthshatter goes through the cart there. Street sweeping from Mezzer.
This was the aggressive opening coming in from Team Liquid that really set the stage where Ube was using a Dragon Blade late into the fight, wasn't able to bring it back. Overall for Team Liquid, I don't have that much of an issue with Team Liquid's defense here. Yeah, they got caught a little bit off guard in that final fight, but other than that, their defense was very much Hollywood standard. The problem with Team Liquid is that their offense wasn't where it needed to be, and that's in part due to LG Loyal playing a pretty adaptive defense that was able to bring fights back even after losing 1 to 2 players.
Yeah.
That actually looks very similar. I think that's exactly where the cart stopped, actually, in their first matchup on Hollywood, right there around that last bend. And we've actually seen it. That's a place where you can potentially defend it. We've even seen some interesting backcaps on that very section. But I want to talk about Genji a little bit because it really was a Genji v Genji battle there, especially at the beginning. Shatter 2K versus Ube. I mean, who stood out more?
I think overall, probably Ube, because Shatter only had 1 or 2 good moments, but Shatter was the best player on his team, in my opinion, on that first map for sure. I don't think there's really a big question of what you're going to get out of Shatter on his Genji. He's a prolific Genji. We know that he's extremely capable of it. The questions are when he switches off to different heroes, what are you going to get there? And then the questions remain on Liquid, AZK and ID, being those flex DPS on the other side, have to carry a little more weight than they did.
I wouldn't really call it a very fair comparison there because, frankly, Ube was getting a lot more support in what he was going for, and even though LG Loyal had a few moments that were questionable, overall they were more on the same page if you take away the first few minutes of their first point attack in terms of how they were engaging fights and who was in where. Liquid, by comparison, they were much more scattered, and I mean, you see that pretty clearly when you have moments where Shatter gets 4 kills, and yet you're not able to get momentum off of that. It was just a little bit awkward by Liquid to start things out.
Yeah, and talking about strengths as Genji, yeah, it's a little feast or famine in that, of course, Shatter can bring back a fight by getting a great blade, but then what are you doing the rest of the time? Well, you're not doing very much because you're needing more out of your other damage dealers. But I want to talk a little bit about Ube's Genji and the support that he was receiving in that Hidan on Zenyatta. What does that bring to the table, and how does that help Genji in this case?
Well,
Go ahead.
Zenyatta brings 2 things. One is that the orb is on the Genji, which means that deflection is much more intimidating because while Genji is deflecting, he's also healing. He has that 2 seconds of getting Zenyatta's full healing power in those moments, which makes him far more difficult to kill. And then you also have Discord Orb, which is making everything he does do more damage. You mark a target, he dashes in, that dash is now 30% more damage. Any fall through is 30% more damage. It drastically decreases Genji's time to kill, so he can just carve through people very quickly. And you have the entire dash reset mechanic on it. Basically, Zenyatta helps Genji snowball harder than most other supports in the game.
So much so that there was an entire meta based around this before they changed Orb to require line of sight, which some people liked, some people did not like, but it's all we saw where you ran double Zen and double Genji, and they both got orbs. And there'd often be times where on an escort map, you had 3 people sitting on the card all alone, and the Genjis were at their spawn on the other side of the map. Numbani comes to mind of being all the way at last because they had the orb on him constantly. A Genji with a healing orb is a brutal thing to go against.
There was a point where Double Dragon was not just an old arcade game. I will tell you.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but with these guys, even though you can't do that anymore, with triple DPS or even just 2 DPS being a possibility, you get Tracer in there as well. And, because that relies so much on finalizing that kill and everyone contributing damage. Well, now literally everyone's doing more damage. And I think we saw Haden use that very well there. The only other thing I wanted to talk about is we did see Zenyatta get a couple of kills late in fights. How does he differ when it's getting down to like 2v2 after, a pretty even fight versus someone like an Ana?
Well, the thing about Zenyatta is that he is easier to kill outright. He does not have a self-heal. He does not have a particularly hard-to-hit hitbox. But what he does have, especially in this patch, is he has more accuracy in his fire, both primary and secondary, and his secondary fire recovers quicker. So there's more potential of a player like Haden, who is very mechanically gifted, of coming in there and surprising a DPS with, say, an alternate fire charge that does take them down immediately. It's less variant, it's more reliable, and you throw that in the hands of someone like Haden, who is, in many people's eyes, one of the very best supports in the game. It can be very dangerous.
The recovery time on the charge is absolutely huge. It seems like a small amount of time, but to be able to open a fight like that, then not be vulnerable for the first second. A second in Overwatch is an eternity, especially when you're trying to take down DPS heroes with 150 HP, or I think he's get 200 HP. But it's very difficult. And then also the Discord. You Discord and headshot a Tracer, bye. That's it.
And just to put this in full perspective with Zenyatta versus Ana now, because supports are very competitive versus each other, nothing is in a vacuum. The fact that Ana now does 20 less damage per shot with her primary fire, the fact that Zenyatta has now been buffed in his actual mechanics, it does mean that in the eyes of some pro players, and of course reactions do vary, but there's many pro players now that are coming out with the idea that Zenyatta is actually the scariest support to go in on now. There are many players, if they're playing a Tracer, they would rather go in on an Ana than a Zen, just in terms of the idea that the Zen might be picking up more kills with the changes.
Well, and we do have our next map, by the way, coming out of Hollywood. One up currently for LG Loyal, and we're going to a Temple of Anubis. This is also what we played the first time around with this matchup. It did go over to Team Liquid, and they're the one that selected it this time. And when they did play it, a few things that we saw, well, really the main thing I want to talk about is Reaper. Reaper played very well on second. ID was on that. So why have we been seeing Reaper on that second point coming into Temple of Anubis? And is there any reason to believe we're not going to see it again today?
I'm actually a little surprised other teams haven't been playing it as much because Liquid has shown it is extremely viable. We talk about it every time. It's close quarters combat, and then it's staggered combat when you're trying to take that last point. You have to go through the Reaper to get to the point, not an ideal situation. You have to go through someone with 250 HP who can two-shot most heroes, and also the close quarters of Anubis last is just where it's at because of those doorways, he can just hide it, and he can shut down a whole hallway by himself.
The one hero I really want to see going into Temple of Anubis, of course, is Orisa. And maybe this is just a blank theory crafting. Maybe I'm completely off base, but you think about the mechanics of Temple of Anubis. You have a character that can take 50% less damage for a long period of time, throw out a lot of damage in turn, and of course her secondary fire that goes in and groups everyone up, which can enable things like bigger pulse bomb kills, bigger cleanup in general. I feel like if you were going to see Orisa played anywhere tonight, you would be here and, oh, please, don't toy with my heart here, Liquid.
It's ID on it, though. I mean, he would be the flex tank.
I was gonna say,
that could be the best for ID, who likes going between DPS and tanks and has more of a tank preference in the idea of where he's really successful. So, I mean, maybe the best of both worlds. I hope this happens.
Cross your fingers here as we're all hoping to see a little Orisa, and both of these sides could potentially play it. If I had to guess, I wouldn't be surprised if Spree were to be able to pick that up, but they are going to be on defense first, so they're going to be posturing a little bit differently. The only other hero I'd like to see, I kind of want to see Flippy on Widow, but no matter which way you slice it, Team Liquid, they're looking to tie things up here on Temple of Anubis. We're going straight in now.
Actually, Hex, thinking about it a little bit deeper, you know where Orisa could be very good here on Temple Anubis. You know how teams like staying on that first high ground?
Yes.
Right before the archway. You know what Orisa's secondary fire can do?
A little yoink.
It can pull you right off.
Yeah, little
You can
yoink.
pull 2-3 people off, suddenly your team is split. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be that blessed. I love coming up with scenarios where Orisa would be good here. Unfortunately, it does look like ID's going to be running Widowmaker, where he has been very effective on it. It's not a bad choice. It's just not pandering to the fans right now, and boo on you, good sir.
Boo indeed. I was saying boo earns. ID will be on the Widow. It's where they've been so successful on this map in particular, and I do agree with Gil that I think Flippy will be on the Widow, but that will be on offense particularly. Already holding the high ground here, trying to dissuade the Widow from going up there. ID gonna have to settle for low ground, looking for a little bit of poke onto the back corner. It's where they're setting up. They just completely bypass the D.Va, leaving ID all alone back here. Dangerous situation. Will get an orb eventually and healed up as they come back to help him out.
That D.Va was very ready for ID to even make his attempt up there, but note how this is split up. The rest of Team Liquid is diving onto that point, so LG Loyal is already split between the archway and the point, and that can be dangerous here as Shatter gets to work. Has already picked up 2 in the backline. Ube fighting for his life here in this tiny corridor, 43 HP, and that's gonna be it. Taken down by Shatter, so ID perhaps was the bait in the back as Shatter able to make the most of the split LG Loyal team.
The series so far reminding me a bit of Korean Overwatch, where it is the Genjis going off, a Genji-centric compositions for both. It is Shatter. ID does get a couple kills late onto this Widow, so gonna stick with it for now, looking for a little bit of poke. Be interesting to see if he stays on it. Generally will not, especially with only 50% on the ult.
I think the thing I love about Korean Overwatch right now is that more so than a lot of the other heroes they have, I mean, you can make a argument they have very good tank play, and in many cases they do, but the Ana and Genji play coming out of Apex from some of the Korean teams is just truly remarkable. It's great to watch.
They make sleep darts look like second nature. The insane amount of darts that are hit. Anyway, we will see. We've got a couple of good Anas in this tournament here as well. Hedan is on the Ana on defense. Now Flippy has rotated over to the Mei, who can be so good at this last point, getting some free damage in on ID, who's coming in over the top. Already very low is ID.
Hedan gets taken out. Hedan from the poke, the finish from Shatter, removing him from the equation here very early on. 5 versus 5 on the point. Liquid starting to swarm in. Shatter holds the Dragon Blade to clean this up. He's gonna go for it right now. Gets iced out here, quite literally. Does find Ube towards the end though. 2 kills here from Shatter off the Dragon Blade, and Liquid still a threat here on the point. Gonna throw the self-destruct for a little bit of extra space. Is free. Gonna fall down.
ID stayed alive very early despite eating icicles on his way in, and now he's still alive. As he mentioned, took down Spree. Raffle will take down his counterpart. A boosted Ube comes out.
Suddenly, Ube arrives, looking to clean this out, has already taken down 2, and that's a very big deal here for the defense when you have respawns coming back in. It will stop this push here from Liquid, and Liquid even get a third there. It does appear like they did.
I'm always hesitant here, always waiting for that moment where it starts retreating, but it is locked in place. They did get 1 tick there. ID will have Barrage up, so he's going to stay on the Pharah, at least for this life. They will give him some support as Shatter switches over to the D.Va, which can help out Pharah a lot. Transcend also up for Dahang as they try to make good on this next push to at least get a tick. They see him coming, though, on the right side. ID's got to eat less damage on the way in this time.
Well, I think they're just going to go for Transcendence here and a Barrage. I got to expect Dahang to come in here. No, Dahang gets taken down immediately by Ube. There will be no Transcendence, and ID left all alone in that Barrage goes down. And actually, if they did the Transcendence, I think Ube would have been able to, or Flippy would have been able to wall it out.
Very possible. The Blizzard will come off on the point, does not capture too many of these heroes, although Mez does find himself in a corner. There goes AZK. This push very likely going to be over as Shatter has to put on the afterburners to get out.
For LG Loyal there, I do wonder if they even need to use the Blizzard in that particular scenario. They already had such a big advantage that, I mean, I guess it made it easier for them and it wasn't clean even with it. But on the same note, you know that Team Liquid is already down one of their key players, so.
Blizzard used to charge extremely quickly. You'd have it up for every single fight. Now it does appear to be just about every other fight, as Flippy only at 20% there. They will have another Dragon Blade up, though.
And Dragon Blade is very effective even on the defense here for Anubis. All you have to do is really take down 1 person, maybe 2, that just ruin a push outright. Transcendence comes out here from Tank. Ube knocked right to the ground. He's out of the fight immediately. 2 unanswered kills here by Team Liquid is now. They have a great opportunity. They make it 3. They pierce right to the back of LG Loyal here. LG Loyal throws out the self-destruct, not getting what they're looking for immediately. And Team Liquid still swarming onto that point. They're gonna pick up their second tick. This is do or die. Ube, late Dragon Blade coming back in, looking for anything. Grabs 1, looking for more. Can Ube and Hedan bring this back? And no, they don't!
Not on the point.
Spree? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he was just coming back on, couldn't get back on there, but it was Very borderline.
Questionable. That's not something Spree would ever do.
No, it has never happened to Spree at all in Overwatch history. I don't know what you're referring to, Hex. Certainly not an errant payload on Hollywood many a day ago.
I no comment. LG Loyal is going to be now on the attack, so this is where we'll very likely see Flippy. As a moment of recap, Team Liquid did capture both points, 3:36 left on the clock. A middle-of-the-road kind of time for Anubis. Sadly, though, no Orisa was coming out from either side. But now it is going to be Loyal on the attack. As I mentioned, Flippy has run Widowmaker on this first point nearly every single time, see if he can get anything done. Defensively, nothing out of the ordinary either. It does appear that they're going to run a more dive-ish defense, at least. ID's probably going to be all alone on one of the cliffs.
The one thing that I really do like the team's been mixing in here more often for first is the first point diva. Not only does it give you more options against a Widowmaker coming in within reason, but also lets you shut down early attacks that like getting in to that right room to protect themselves. But I'm not going to be seeing the defensive diva here out of Team Liquid. They are instead going with a very divey defense where a lot is again going to be on ID, where ID is going to have to be in a sight line where he's not in Flippy's vision and yet still able to support the rest of his team. And I think the reason why the Widow complicates this a little bit is that AZK and Shadow, they're going to be looking to dive to the back to begin with. But how much is ID going to be able to help them out when they're on their backline dives if he's afraid of Flippy picking him off? I think this is a difficult defense here for Liquid, at least on first.
It will be. I would not dislike a diva here either. One of the reasons you see Winstons and divas on these points is there's so much verticality that if they have to go up to a ledge quickly, they have the ability to do so to help their team. Makes them much more mobile tanks than the other tanks in the pool. Regardless, over the top, damage boosted rockets already coming in, trying to get some damage done. We'll see what sightline Flippy wants to take. He's looking for the 76 in the backline. Widow's such a good natural counter to 76.
Well, Flippy will take whatever he can get, including pot shots at Winston. Gotta imagine him going up here in a moment. Ube already down and oh no. Grappling hook malfunction. Coming in here, of course, that is entirely user error, but it will hurt Flippy's position here where now he can't get in over the top. Hedan's gonna fall and LG Loyal gonna have to regroup.
Yep, they have to get out as Hedan did end up falling to a Helix rocket late in that fight. Not a whole lot of damage coming in from Spree. Ideally, you would like Spree to hit a rocket and then just be able to body shot them down for Flippy, but so far, no angles. Liquid in a very defensive position in the back corner until they turn it on. Mez with another dive in there. Still, this fight has gone bloodless so far. Spree does take 2 shots from the Ana, but less damage now.
Well, Spree in a great position now. The punish to Hang, moving in, needs one more rocket. Decides to back off. The Hang still up and around in this fight. Meanwhile, Flippy falling in the back on the AZK as AZK suddenly going off. Takes down 2, Shatter taking down 1. 3-1 here for Team Liquid. And even though Dehang does finally fall to Spree, it's very late in this fight. We'll see if it's enough, but Liquid starting to bleed out some players here towards the very end. It's going to make their next defense a little bit harder.
Spree killing Dehang needed to happen 20 seconds before it actually did happen. He had the nice initiation there and did not chase down the Ana. Ana did hit a couple shots on him, but that damage reduction is going to be so big. A lot of people have prophesized that Pharah will be a lot more in the meta because of the Ana damage reductions.
Well, nice part here for Team Liquid is that they do have both Pulse Bomb and Dragon Blade up and at the ready. AZK moving to the back, looking for anyone to stick. Shatter still holding onto his blade. And they're going to have to pull this here soon if they want to pull this back. Shatter, Dragon Blade is out. Pulse Bomb from AZK does very little. Shatter looking for anything, and he gets nothing off the Dragon Blade, only gets a face full of Super Pluke instead, as LG Loyal able to get the early pickoffs, and the counter from Team Liquid just a little bit too slow.
Well, they did speed boost out of spawn with ambitions of perhaps getting back here, but they know it is way too late. Way too many kills had come down already, and this is good for Loyal because look at the bank they've built up here on their next attack. They're going to be able to initiate with Sound Barrier. That should keep Barrage alive. Flippy's going to have the option there, and really what brought them back in that fight was a beautiful resurrection from Hedan.
Here comes LG Loyal moving in, trying to attack the spawn door, and they take down Dehang early on. It's a nice early opening. Sound Barrier now used for LG Loyal. They are all in on this fight. Dragon Blade expended. 4 kills to 1 for LG Loyal as they go off. Dragon Blade and Barrage hitting their mark. LG Loyal now a dominant presence here on this point. They're going to get 1 tick for sure. Moving up to the second, they get that. Liquid gonna have to try and sell this out at the very end, and no, they're not even able to touch the point. That's how decisive that last attack from LG Loyal was.
Beautiful time to kill there as they got all 6 when they needed within the span of only a few seconds. So a better time for LG Loyal by about a minute and a half here as we move into another phase of Anubis.
Hex, I have a question for you. Do you think when Orisa was built she built with tear ducts? Can she cry?
Why would you give robots tear ducts?
Because so she could cry right now at not being played, Hex. That's the reason why.
Why did you give me the ability to feel paid?
Well, the way they say it is that if they were arguing a movie, they'd say, oh, they feel more human, and they'd go, this is terrible.
Robots. Oh, robots. The entire lore of Overwatch built on robots, and I just, I always wonder, when you see a sleeping Bastion, does he dream of electric sheep?
I don't know. He probably likes the brief moment in time where he's not being controlled by an evil bird.
Who says that bird is evil?
I say that bird is evil. I have sources, Hex, that tell me very concretely that that bird has only the most ill of intentions.
I'll have you know I'm an expert on bird law. I specialize in bird law. Well, no birds on the field here, unfortunately. No Orisa either. We will still wait patiently for the day from Orisa. I think, actually, if we don't see it tonight, I bet you LG Evil plays it tomorrow because they have such an overwhelming lead, and they've been known to toy around with all sorts of different stuff. A creative team.
I think Super would be down for anything that let him maybe flex off the Reinhardt, though. A lot of teams don't think you can use her quite as a Reinhardt replacement yet. But take a look here. Team Liquid coming in on the offense once more. ID back to the Widowmaker. Going to be looking for like pickoffs, and there it is, of course, Spree on the Diva, denying ID the sightlines he wants to get here, but also eating a lot of damage in the process and not necessarily stopping ID from taking pot shots, as he almost got one just there. And now ID free to go back here over the top. Going to get some quality opportunities here as he looks to take down Flippy in the back.
Well, some suppressing fire there from Flippy to keep ID out a little bit for the moment, but now Flippy is in trouble. He's going to have a Genji in his face, able to win that 1v1 against Shatter. Nice for Flippy as he had the preemptive biofield down on the ground for him. Still some contention on the point, but not much. Wow, that is a beautiful shot on Flippy.
It's a great shot where Flippy just falls, flip after flip, down onto the point. No pun intended, as ID now looking for extra pickoffs. And this is where Team Liquid is going to be able to regroup. They have 2 pickoffs, and ID now can take advantage. Looking for a little bit more, not a whole lot in his line of sight. And the question is if LG Loyal is even going to contest this back in. I think they will, but it's going to be very messy for them and not necessarily the highest percentage.
The razor's edge of Overwatch on display as ID was down to 2 HP a couple of times, looking for a giant grapple shot. Will not need it, though, as AZK has taken down 2 on the point. Already 6v3 in favor of Liquid. Make it 6v2. This should be first point taken.
Like we're going to take this pretty darn quickly, and they're going to have a lot of time to go for second here. Get another 30 seconds onto the clock. 2 minutes, 30 seconds here for Team Liquid. And they're going to have the Dragon Blade to fuel this, so this might be their best attempt, and it's their first attempt on the second.
Well, Shatter, of course, telling us that we are not prepared, and perhaps we are not, but he's going to be having the Dragon Blade. They might wait for Rafa here, because it'd be so nice to go in with the ults that they do have with a Sound Barrier, but Nano Boost might be it too. But I have to imagine that's what they're doing. That's why they're not going in just yet.
Well, that would probably be a solid reasoning. Sound Barrier, Dragon Blade, very effective. And yet, Team Liquid looking like they're going to force the issue. Here comes Nano Blade on the Shatter. Picks up 2 immediately with 1 swipe. Devastating stuff from Shatter as he picks up 3. And Team Liquid absolutely clearing out this point with ease. Very well could have 4 points on our hands here as LG Loyal. Gonna take them a bit to get back on this in force.
It does appear so. This Diva stall out in full effect as Spree actually living longer as Baby Diva than he did. There is a counter boosted Genji on the other side of things. Still no kills. You need to start seeing blue. Ube does get 1. That is it so far. Nearly 2 ticks for Liquid.
Liquid still dominating here. They're about to get that second tick. They get it, and it is do or die now for LG Loyal. They're not... What? Okay, Spree was there that time. He's allergic to points. I actually have no other explanation.
Switching sides.
He absolutely could have stalled that out. Just so we're clear.
I think he tripped and fell down the stairs because that's where he ended up. That was...
What happened to you? I tripped and fell down some stairs.
Don't you have a giant, super advanced mech? Yeah, but stairs, still an issue. My one true enemy, stairs. Well, that was interesting. I don't think it would have mattered all that much. Maybe a little more delay, but it gives them another chance. You can't throw away that chance. At least Spree, I think, was going to be able to get out there on time. As it stands, however, Team Liquid with 4 points on Anubis as these teams have been going back and forth. 5 minutes for LG Loyal to try to tie that up as they will take their second crack at attack here.
Well, 5 minutes is plenty of time to, in fact, bring this back. I mean, you have to take it almost as a given that they're going to get point A here, barring a ridiculous hold by Team Liquid. But if Team Liquid is even only able to hold it for 2 minutes, that still leaves LG Loyal with plenty of time to make several very high-quality attacks on the point B. So Team Liquid's defense definitely going to be tested here. We could be going either to a 4-4 draw or the rare 5-4 finish, that both very likely given the time left in this game.
Willing to buy a defense at this point. It has been all offense here on Anubis. They will be running this very dive-heavy composition again. Well, actually more of a combo-centric composition with Flippy supporting as the Widowmaker as well. Defensively, the dive comp in full effect, ID onto the 76.
Team Liquid now holding on the defense. They have to be aware of flipping the sightlines, and Shatter just shutting it down immediately, not letting Flippy get in a groove here. And now he's going to be able to come back and dive on the remainder of the LG Loyal squad. They're down 2 already. This is a bad place to be if you're Lucio with no friends.
Well, Ube is able to get 1 there. Of course, not the trades that they want. Dahang did go down. It's been a tough day for Dahang across different heroes. He has died more than I'm used to him dying. They will try to bully out the remaining 3. Gotta be careful though. Look at how late these deaths are coming. So they had the notion that they were gonna reinforce up there and push back in, but Liquid denying that idea from the get-go.
It was about 10 seconds from a reinforce and then ended up being a very late stagger instead. It's a fine line, and LG Loyal, they decided to make that gamble instead of either having everyone die or just try and run out. And unfortunately for LG Loyal, it doesn't work out. Team Liquid has very good cleanup there. And now as a result, you look at Team Liquid, they can start out with the Pulse Bomb in this fight. Shatter very likely to build a Dragon Blade in the midst of it. And you have the Tech Visor on deck for ID, so Team Liquid's in a great position here to drain off more time off this point A defense.
Spree will very likely be coming up over the top here. This is an angle a lot of Pharaohs like to take to evict a 76 from that top perch. But on the other side of things is ID. He takes down Fluke on his dive early. Spree shoots a rocket into the ground.
ID with 2 kills starting out this fight. Shatter piling on. Everyone from Team Liquid getting on the action. Don't tell Dahang that the bio rifle from Ana has been nerfed, but it's decisive all across the board, and they don't have to throw much in it ult-wise. They use a Pulse Bomb. That's it.
Pulse Bomb barely counts. It's just an ability with a long cooldown in my eyes, given all the tanks and how quickly Tracer can charge it. Of course, that doesn't mean you just want to throw it on the ground. You do want to hit pay dirt with it, but they will find it there. Shatter is going to build up this Dragon Blade. He's 5% away from having it.
Shatter's been great with the Dragon Blades here today, and now about to have another. Looking for it here in this fight. And doesn't want to use it here just yet. It would have been a very heavy dive for him, probably ill-advised, but as soon as LG Loyal goes even a little bit further in, they're going to be tasting the steel of Shatter here as Shatter, good position, backs out. Soundbear is used here from Team Liquid, but they're not using other ultimates in here yet. They're being very conservative, but there's the nano boost in for Shatter. Blade, finally out.
Gotta get his
Has
Mercy.
one, looking for the Mercy, and no, just gets juked around. The Resurrection going to come out as a result, and still option here for LG Liquid as Ube pulls out a Blade of his own, dashing in. Also not getting as much here as he gets blown up. Oh my goodness, Mezar with a final bit of finish there as well. That is not quite what you are looking for. As Liquid able to pull that back, Resurrection or no.
Loyal needs to reset right now. Resurrection can be game-changing, but it also can just bring you up in bad positions sometimes where the other team can set up around you. Of course, Mercy will live through those more often. Now, Rios is going to have a sound barrier to be able to push in. It's the only ultimate on the field. If they knew that, I think they would probably push in right now. Spree has stayed on this Pharah. I imagine this might be his last life. Has not found the purchase with it that he's looking for, and it's been forcing Hedan to stay on this Mercy, which I think is holding them back a bit.
Well, Ube gets popped immediately here. Mezar in the right position at the right time. Spree on the Dahang though, so 5 versus 5. Liquid gonna be without a whole lot of healing. Rafa falls, so they're healing completely out of it. It's gonna be up to AZK and Shadow during this pack. AZK falls now. Shatter and Mezar versus the world. Not super likely to go well, but we'll see what Shatter has up his sleeve as he at least will be able to buy a little bit of extra stall.
Yeah, he is still buying out that stall, but that is 2 quick kills there. That should spell the end of this first point at the very least, as Spree was able to hold on to that barrage too. That is what they might try to push with here. Nothing else ready.
Well, this barrage can be very good, especially if you get at people as they're coming in through that spawn door. I think that's what Spree was considering going in on, but the rest of LG Loyal not quite ready to dive in. Hedan getting close to another res as AZK falls early on. It's a nice pick from Spree. Still holding on to the barrage in reserve. In over the top. Justice raiding right into Diva's defensive matrix. Doesn't get the kill he's looking for. And Team Liquid looking to bring this back. Dragon Blade out from Shatter. Mopping up the remainder of LG Loyal here. At least 2 kills to start. Forcing them back. And this should be a hold here by Team Liquid.
Dahang goes down yet again to Super Fluke. As I mentioned, it's been just a tough day to beat Dahang. They are still in here poking around, maybe have notions of getting... No, Ube wants to die, and they will not abide.
Ube This is usually reserved for divas. Now we've graduated to doing this to robot ninjas, but they do finally take down Ube, and that is quite a stagger coming in, where I think it's a little bit telegraphed. You just sit there not fighting. You should always be shooting things out at the very least. Don't make it obvious that you want death.
Oh, what are you, my psychologist? Anyway, Hedon here is going to have the resurrection, so they can get very aggressive. They can come in, they can sacrifice on the point and get a resurrection. Also, the possibility of just going in and a solo single-man res for tempo. That's a nice start. Shatter already down from Spree.
Shadow tried to switch to May and gets very little done to start things out here. Ube, Dragon Blade out, going to the back, is taken down to Hanger Leon, but Liquid trading out very efficiently here. They still have AZK up and around. Shadow's going to rejoin the point here in a moment. This is not at all decisive for LG Loyal here just yet. They have a bit of a numbers advantage, but now they're starting to turn it back around. They get the kills they need. Down goes AZK, and now they have a real opportunity to pile this on. The last bit of the fight going their way. Shatter, the last one to worry about, they take him down.
So Low does finally go down. They have firmly gotten one tick. We are now in overtime. Very last fight coming in here as Ube does grab a couple. Pluke able to get another kill. Stall still coming out from this Diva. Ube trying to clean it up. Still in the contention phase. Not getting any progress on this point. Have been unable to deal with this Diva and Lucio. That will buy some time. It still has been all LG Loyal in this fight.
See a little bit of May action coming out here from Shatter. Again, just buying time with the Ice Wall, Ice Block combo. He's going to get a present there in the form of Pulse Bomb and Spree's Rockets. And yet, you look at Liquid, they've been doing a lot of delay here for just getting thoroughly trounced. Spree goes for the barrage in over the top, trying to decisively end this. Rafa rejoins the fight, but he is under pressure from all angles. And yet, Liquid still rolling back in.
Well, the nice resurrection there will keep them at full fighting force. Now they have 5 on the point. They will finally cap it out. So far, we are at 4-4. LG Loyal will not get another shot at this. Liquid with a minute on the clock. A little over a minute to take first point and the map.
The one good part there, at least for Liquid, is that the worst case scenario for them here now is a draw, which means that this would, of course, would be settled by a control point tiebreaker later on the series if necessary. So Liquid at least has that in their back pocket. Their first attacks here have been pretty good overall, and please, don't play with my heart here, LG Loyal. Don't. I mean, it's Real's doing it, so it's probably not going to happen, but I would love him forever if it was.
Well, Quit Playing Games With My Heart will be a song we sing all evening as Reels does switch over to Lucio.
Not going to happen here. And ID, this is a switch up, and I think the reason why you're seeing this is that Spree has been waiting for ID on the top archway every single time. So ID now going to get his third look at this has said, enough. I'm going to get... No, he hasn't said enough. Okay, it would have made more sense if he's on the hog and then just like pull the Diva down and punish her immediately. But no, he's going to go to the Widowmaker, and they still have plenty of ways of dealing with it. But either way, I guess we will be looking at that ID versus Spree matchup early on once more.
ZP debated.
You can spam that glorious laughing face all day
I'm only
long.
telling because you will love it. I know you'll love it. We'll watch the video later over popcorn and popsicles. All right, Shatter is going to be on the Genji, of course. He's been on it all game. I think they could use a giant breakout from him. As I meant, only a minute left. So you can go in right now and maybe get 2 pushes. Shatter trying to work his way around. Nice read from Ube to be able to deny that.
Meanwhile, Spree versus ID 3.0 happening back here. And ID under a whole lot of pressure. Perhaps the Roadhog would have been a better option to get for debating, but no, he's looking for the early pickoff. Under so much pressure though, 1 HP, down he goes.
Well, that's absolutely critical that they kill ID there. But the one time that they didn't and left him alive with 2 HP, a couple different fights, he came back and punished him for it. So a great defensive look here for LG Loyal. I doubt we will be getting to the ultimate phase of this game with only 30 seconds left. ID with a switch now onto Diva instead. Mezer's going to go on to a more traditional tank. They do rotate compositions here, trying something else.
AZK on the Roadhog, and you got to think that Spree's his main target here. Spree's been playing rather aggressively, trying to deal with ID. Not going to be able to swap back out here, and oh, fine, super Pluke.
Beautiful.
That is not a Winston flank that's going to be successful in the least. Nice 65 opportunity here for Team Liquid. Everyone's still at full HP, but Ube very well could build the Dragon Blade in this fight here, Hex, as the turnabout for removing Liquid from the point. But Liquid, they're going to force the issue here of the tank-heavy setup. They swarm onto the point. Is it going to be enough? They take down the Hedon immediately. Hedon out of his hiding hole. Here comes Ube. Will this be the decider? Trying to pull it back. Gets juked out a little bit, but does contribute to taking out the hang. Or even here on the point is Ube. Dash resetting in. It's coming down to the wire.
Could be very close. Shatter does come in at the last second on 76. I think he switched to that so he could get the sprint and get back into this fight for Team Liquid. Reels is going to dance a while away. He's just waiting for maybe someone on his team to come back before he has to sacrifice his life getting in on the point. He is dancing back and forth, but he's also taking so much damage. Liquid will grab this point, and consequently, the map, we are tied up 1-1 in the series.
No draws today, good sir. Not yet.
Yeah, don't curse us.
Don't worry, we still have plenty of potential later on in the night, now that I have laid down the curse. But Team Liquid able to make most of that minute 23. They did need that extra 23 seconds. If they were stuck at only a minute, I don't think they do it, but gives them just enough time to swap things up and go in. I will say, though, for the record, that if ID did start as Roadhog, I think they probably could have got Spree out of position because they did the same thing 3 times in a row.
It's possible. What I loved about that match on both sides of things was the reads that went on there. I mean, Ube denying the entry from Shatter, who wanted to go up and around, and then the entry in to find Pluke out in the corner, just knowing that that's where he's been the entire time, adjusting on a cerebral level.
Yeah, and this is a lot of how it looked the first time around, and Team Liquid once again picking up victory here on Temple of Anubis. And honestly, it's a little bit of a switch from what we saw in there that first map. We talk about multiple threats being necessary here. AZK started coming online there on Tracer. Of course, Shatter has always been playing good on Genji. And then ID was contributing on that Widow in 76, and I would even say maybe even a little bit better on Widow than Flippy was. So my question for the other side is, where was Flippy throughout that match? He just didn't seem to be having the impact that they need.
When he wasn't on Widow, he was rather invisible, and that was it's a little bit concerning, but he has had games on Tracer in 76 where he's had very good games, just not on that map in particular.
It was a weaker game for him, to be sure, overall. And there's not too much more to dive into that. I'd say it's a better game for ID in terms of Widow. Not so much the last push, but the first 2 pushes going in certainly were effective. And it wasn't blazingly fast from either team, but it was good quality play from Liquid as far as being consistent and getting through. And I mean, when you're able to have not 1, not 2, but 2.5 successful Anubis attacks, that's pretty good.
And one thing we did see from them is they played, Dehang was on that Zenyatta, didn't play that the most of the map. So why are we maybe not seeing Zenyatta on a map, a 2CP map like Temple of Anubis, where we are seeing him on some hybrid maps and some of these other ones?
I think a lot of it is up to preference. I don't know what Dehang is honestly doing on a lot of these, because we've seen that Hedan is able to run it on offense and defense, especially going back to Hollywood, where Dehang was switching. Perhaps that's the whims of his team. They want that long distance, a higher output of healing. But Dehang overall, I mean, we talk about someone who's had a rough match for Liquid, and this is why it's so interesting, is Dehang has been the rock for this team. You always know what you're going to get out of Dehang performance-wise. He's been focused very hard. Maybe that is why he's been switching over to Ana. You can protect yourself a little bit better, especially if you get double dived with the sleep darts able to keep you alive, but he's had a rough set so far.
If you're not running a Zarya, which at many points they were not in that sort of setup, it's actually very hard to protect a Zenyatta that's getting dived on to that extent. There's only so much a Zenyatta can do. Ana, of course, still has the ability to nade herself in those situations, go back and forth and scream for help, sometimes land a good sleep dart. Zenyatta's best mode of defense is just killing you when you dive in on him, but that's difficult if you have 2-3 people really going out of their way to isolate you and remove you from the fight.
And also, the person diving onto Dehang was super Pluke for the most part. And Zen against Winston, you just don't have enough damage to kill him before you die. Ana, you can at least get a sleep dart on, you can run away, you can do some damage and keep yourself healed up. But I think that's it, because Winston v Zen 1v1, Winston wins that 95% of the time, whereas Zen can deal with flankers, he can't deal with Winston.
It does depend, though, the level of support you're getting for your team, because the opposite end of that is that Winston also very much fears Zenyatta while he is alive, because if you have the rest of your team going out of their way to focus Winston as he leaps in and blow him up, well, let's just say Discord Orb and Gigantic Scientist do not mix.
This is words to live by here. I'm definitely learning a lot here on the desk about Overwatch math. They do not mix. But let's go ahead and take a look at our next map. It is going to be a repeat of what we saw CP-wise, control point-wise, in their first match where Liquid was able to come out victorious. But this time it's Lumen, or LG Loyal, rather, picking Nepal. And when it comes to 2CP, I mean, all these teams have had, you know, their strengths and weaknesses. But we're coming into Nepal. Anything that we're expecting on here, or is it going to be what we've been seeing from Nepal the whole time?
I could see a multitude of heroes being run here. I do expect to see Zenyatta, especially on the center stage there, where he's got a lot of room to move around, stay out of sight lines. Of course, Sanctum is always interesting. I think we will probably see one of the more interesting battles in my mind of Mezzer versus Pluke on that map. Of course, the stair battle always happens between Reinhardts.
One thing that I find interesting right now in the map choice game, where we've seen it here in Carbon, and we saw it over the weekend with the Overwatch Monthly Melee, which used the same map pool as the Carbon series, is that I feel like teams aren't really going out of their way to find unique map picks to throw other teams here for a loop. I feel like teams, especially when you look at Control and Assault, they've just sort of settled into this idea of, well, we're just going to almost always pick Anubis because we just want to spend our scrim time on that, and we're going to spend most of our scrim time on Nepal. You haven't had teams go out of their way to go, actually, we're going to do a scrim set on Oasis here and catch them off guard on Oasis, like we saw back in week 1, or anything in regards to maybe we do want to do more of a Hanamura strategy. Teams have been somewhat uninventive with where they are bringing other teams on maps, and it's a little disappointing. I understand why in terms of scrim blocks, but there is an edge to be had if you bring a team to a map that they're not particularly comfortable on.
I've always thought about it in going way back to closed beta when we started introducing new map types that if you're a team that necessarily, or not necessarily is the highest level, you're not ranked #1 in the world, the way to beat those teams that are above you on those levels is to get very good at assault or get very good at specific controls. Then that's your specialty and you can win those. If you're going to be losing maps, then you can choose the next map you're going into. That's the system most tournaments are running. So I agree with you. I'm a little upset we haven't seen as much Oasis. I think that's a great map that a lot of teams could do well on. Nepal has been the default safe picks, especially for teams who struggle overall on control maps.
Well, we also had Ilios in the pool as well. It's not just a tiebreaker. Teams can pick it, and I'm trying to think if we've even seen Ilios in the normal map rotation, not just as a tiebreaker. Teams have very steadfastly been sticking to Nepal, but either way, this matchup going to be on the way. We were getting teased by Orisa, not happening here as Spree taking to the air in this Pharah composition for LG Loyal, looking for early pickoffs, but the counter dive from Team Liquid, taking down Headan immediately, getting rid of that source of support, and giving lots of room for Shadow here, the work in the back.
Not a whole lot of support for Headan in this composition. As you saw, he just got jumped on immediately by Mez. That is support and damage down once you take out the Zenyatta, and that will be first point going over to Liquid because of that. Spree has been so hot or cold on his Pharah. The time to kill way too long, not getting enough damage there, not coordinating with the dive, and meanwhile, it leaves your backline extremely exposed. If it happens again to Headan, I would not be surprised to see changes come into this composition.
Not in the least, and for Team Liquid right now, they do get to hold this defensive position here on Village, but Loyal diving right in immediately, powered by Pluke. Spree finding AZK with that rocket. 2 kills here from LG Loyal. Shatter, though, keeping it balanced. Has 2, coming back the other way, and Spree's not very healthy right now as he's in this. It's going to limit his ability to go back in. Doesn't have heals in the back, and yet picks up another 2 kills with no health remaining. Pretty gutsy play by Spree to help solidify that for LG Loyal.
Did Spree find AZK with that rocket, or did AZK catch that rocket with his face?
He caught it with his teeth, actually.
It was impressive. It's an impressive circus trick if you can pull it off, the old bullet catch in the teeth. However, that is LG Loyal bringing it back off of the Discord from Headan, helping Spree finish those kills much quicker on the point as he had to poke around at that low health pool. Winston's will dive in from both sides. The Discord Orb takes down ID immediately.
That's the power of Genji, aided by Discord Orb. The burst damage very high here. Ezra, though, still finding 2 kills in the back. He's made Headan his primary target here. That's going to cut off Ube's support. Zube trying to bring this back. Almost was able to get on it, but now has to deal with the Blade Shatter, taking his head right off in the ninja on ninja battle. As Team Liquid now able to retake control of this point. Pretty back and forth.
As back and forth as it can be. 1, 2, and then back again. So, you know, identifying the pattern here, it should be LG Loyal that wins this next fight. That's how Overwatch works, right?
Sometimes. Only by pure coincidence.
Well, they will have most of their ultimates up by the next time they push. They're going to be loaded for bear. Ube starts off taking over Alpha, and 2 more.
It's 3 dash resets for days, slicing through Mezar just for good measure. And you can't get a better Genji initiation than what Ube just had there. Utterly decisive coming in for LG Loyal. So for now, at least the theory of swapping back and forth is holding on. But take a look at Team Liquid. They're going to have a tactical visor up for the next fight. and we'll see if ID can put himself in a good position to use it.
What's great for Loyal there, too, is they won a team fight with one ultimate. That was just Dragon Blade. That is the power of Genji able to get those multiple kills in a single ultimate, and that's all they had to use. So they're still banking on some of their own. Ube takes down Shatter immediately.
Shatter just got crunched. There's no other way of putting it. Spree with the barrage eliminates ID before ID can even say he has anything in his sights. One thing he had going in his sights were rockets coming to his face.
Not exactly what you want to see when you put on. It's like when you peek below the surface of the ocean and you see a shark somewhere in the distance. Terrifying. At least that's what I always think I'm going to see, which is why I don't go in the ocean.
Well, for a guy that really likes aquariums, Hex, you have a disturbing fear of sharks.
I have a great love, fear, and reverence of the ocean. I like my ocean safely behind glass.
Well, Team Liquid right now coming in, sound barrier on the way. ID gonna be popping the tactical visor, looking for Spree on the top, immediately guns him down. One quick killer for Team Liquid, but Loyal still the ability to pull this back. They're gonna use the Transcendence to buy out time here on the point as Flippy looks for the pulse bomb, moving in and around as a Tracer can, gets that support pickoff, and Heaton off the Transcendence is very well bought. LG Loyal, the power to pull this back. Still though, very even as AZK and Mezar are moving in and around. Genji versus Genji battle here in the back. Ube not with a whole lot of health left to make this happen, but finds Rafa towards the end, so about as close as you can get here. Both Genji's holding on to Dragon Blade as Shatter goes down to that last Shuriken.
And he had to get off of the point too, which means that LG Loyal did bring it back. Now they're going to have to come in at a scattered offense just to try to get back on this point. They're not going to give this up for free, are they? No, they do get on the point. That is a Winston stalling out. ID will take down Spree. That's the first kill they need to bring it back. Gets two.
ID will be taken down after getting two, but Mezar right there at the follow through. Liquid striking right back. Look at those still on here looking for heroics. We've seen Tracers pull this back. Pulse bomb comes out. Gonna force out the blink. AZK and the rest of Liquid much more dominating on the point as they take down two. And this is gonna come down to the wire. About as even as a control point map gets. Next fight, gonna decide it all.
Next fight, and it's going to be some vanilla Overwatch here too, as no one is even near ultimates on either side. Flippy, he's going to have a pulse bomb somewhere in the fight. That could be the tide turner, as it were. They do need to come in here. There will be one more fight. They don't have to get very aggressive on this point. They will pressure around to the side.
Mezar diving in, picks up reels immediately. Pulse bomb from Flippy does not connect as AZK just popping to the back. Spree grounded by that Tracer play. 3-1 in favor of Team Liquid in the driver's seat here. Pluke and Heaton gonna try and bring this out, but they're very outnumbered here. But ID's really low. Super Pluke picks up another. Liquid has not secured this here yet. Respawn's gonna be coming in here soon for LG Loyal. And suddenly, it's Pluke holding on for dear life. Does get the support coming in Reels, and LG Loyal could very well pull this back.
Well, it's going to be difficult 2-on-1 now as Reels is dancing for his life. The reinforcements are coming in. The DPS for Loyal are coming backing in. Spree takes down Rafa. Reels does finally go down, but not for he stalled at the point. This is going on for a very long time.
Mezar pops Primal Rage at the very end, clearing out the point, and just when you think LG Loyal has the potential to bring that back in, it's a finishing Tac Visor and Primal Rage that slammed the door shut as Team Liquid takes round number 1 here on the Village.
That was bonkers. Everyone got 2 to 3 lives in that last fight. There were reinforcements from each side, some nice stall out from both Lucios.
I mean, forget the Lucios. Let's talk about Pluke there at the very end, where just dancing for dear life in that barrier projectile.
Those are some hip scientist dance moves. I can't move like that. I also can't do science, so maybe they're correlated.
It's one of those things where can't do one, can't do the other. But we'll look here at both teams. It's going to be interesting to see if both teams go for the traditional stair fight here. I don't think Loyal wants to play that game. They have Pluke here on the Winston, which means I think they're going to go on the opposite side of the stairs and try and catch Liquid off guard.
Well, they might show that they want to fight stairs just to keep a body over there so that Liquid does not get a hint of this early on, and then the rotations come around from the other side. That's exactly what they're doing, showing a little bit. They will dive over the top, though. So far, no one down.
Pluke doing so much damage in the back. He gives his life for it, though, and the rest of LG Loyal doesn't commit to the dive. So all the damage that Pluke did, completely irrelevant now to this fight. Liquid instead just having the raw one-man advantage as Ube gets utterly smushed against the corner by Mezar. That's the sound a Cyber Ninja makes when you get smashed against the wall.
Smush.
Smush.
It's a good word.
There's a lot of Ghibli parts inside that suit.
Why did you say what's inside that suit?
Ghibli parts.
Sounds like something you would buy at a very dodgy butcher. Make a nice stew out of those parts. So Flippy trying to get the damage in. Dan will take down Dahang. He's definitely had a better go of it so far as the supports go, but Liquid gets the better part of that engagement in the small room as they have the bigger tank composition there. Going to be difficult for Loyal to break this in the composition that they're running against these triple tank.
And this is the power of getting first control here on Sanctum, is that there's a lot of ways of holding in, making the other team overextend in terms of using too many ults to even get through. But here comes Ube, Dragon Blade out, already down 2 of his teammates as he just gets blown up. Nowhere for Ube to go there. Dragon Blade utterly wasted. Shatter showing us some of his Zarya's chops, getting the double kill there. He's gonna have a Graviton up for the next fight.
It was one of the questions we had about Shatter, well, we have had about Shatter throughout this series. We know what his Genji can do. His Genji is phenomenal. It's how good is his other stuff. So far, looking great on Zarya.
I want another storyline with Gravitons here. If Ube could just reflect this Graviton, that would be great.
I'm ready to see Gravitons land today. I've seen enough of yesterday. Spree will hit Mez early on with the Pulse Bomb. Of course, Rhines are Pulse Bomb Magnets. Transcend will come in late, but not enough to keep everyone alive. Shatter will come in, grab a couple. Still not able to flip this back over his LG Loyal. Tactical Visor comes in for good measure. Liquid dominating this map. One fight away from taking the map advantage 2-0.
The problem here for LG Loyal is that even when they've had a bit of an ult advantage, they haven't been able to get a clean initiation through this doorway. Usually teams can just expend a lot of ultimates to get through, but even that has not been working. They've been a little bit sloppy getting through. Liquid, iron defense. Here comes the Sound Bear from Liquid to try and put this way out right. Ube gets bopped immediately, and no one's gonna get an ID here. ID has a shooting gallery to whoever he wants, and Fluke not going to be getting away this time.
I think they may have just lost this one compositionally if they do end up losing it. Last ditch effort on the point. Flippy does jump on there for a moment. It's one of the longest that they've had on the point this entire stage. I think that composition can work fine if you have control of the point. It becomes very difficult to get back in, especially a team that's holding far forward like Liquid against those tanks. We saw them struggle with it. They blew all their ults to try to get through and still lost the fight.
I agree, and there's plenty of fights or compositions like that on Sanctum. Better example I can give you is when you look at a player like Magachu who will run Junkrat on that stage. Junkrat's only good in the initial contest and hold it. Once you get to that point where you actually have to retake it, it doesn't work. There's plenty of situations where a composition can be great for everything but attacking, and that was probably one of those cases where they would have benefited from having the Ryan.
I will protect the innocent.
Well, we do
Or the
see...
Orisa. I want to believe.
I want to believe as well. I don't think we will see it. The pro scene is, sometimes slow to adapt. Just so everyone knows, Orisa is available to be played in this tournament. We've made no special exception here. We play on the live servers. Combination coming out for Team Liquid. Dahang and ID will be taking its guys in the pharmacy. On the ground, Shatter AZK planting some flankers. Mez is going to have a tough time staying alive, but ID taking on Hedan. Great start.
Hedan's had a really tough time staying alive on the Zen. It's Mezar in his face every single time, and it only requires a shot from one Team Liquid player to finish it off, as that time it was ID in over the top. Now Mezar, great position here to just finish things out. Rotating around the point, just holding down the Tesla cannon fire. Team Liquid, a very clean and convincing take to start out the Shrine stage.
I feel like every time I see Mezar's Winston, it gets better and better, and that should scare people. Of course, he's known for being a great world-regarded Reinhardt player. His Winston, I thought it had moments when he first started playing, it was a little bit suspect, but that's just the learning curve of it. His Winston lately has been great.
It's been phenomenal, and now ID, long-range rocket, able to get rid of Reels early on in this fight. 2 kills here from Team Liquid, just piling on, and yeah, you go to McCree here from LG Loyal, but if you lose people early on, McCree's not going to be able to win you that uneven fight unless he has just godlike position.
They need to rotate in as 6, Discord part of the combo, and then McCree them down. That's it, that's all. Really easy to do. Going to be difficult for them. Again, I think this is part where you see the Ana being damage nerfed. Very difficult to take down a combo. Generally, you could just run an Ana and a McCree and be fine.
Here's the problem for LG Loyal is that in this next fight, unless they take out Dahang first, the Resurrection is probably going to win this for Team Liquid. And then Team Liquid's going to be 1 fight away. So there's a lot of battles that need to be won here for LG Loyal to even consider taking this map back. Raj comes out from ID just on reaction. Going to be forcing Flippy back at the beginning. Down goes ID. Now, there's 2 members down for Team Liquid. That means the Resurrection is coming in. Dahang, show us your big res here because it's necessary.
Well, he had to go around to the other side. He was completely out of position trying to run back in. Will get flashbanged in, taken down. No Resurrection incoming there. However, 75%. They've banked ults perhaps accidentally, but they've banked ults.
That's the unfortunate flip side of the coin here for LG Loyal, is that if there's a good res, they lose the fight. If there's no res and Liquid banks ultimates, they probably lose this next fight. This is the power of being ahead. Here comes Team Liquid right now on their attack. Ube's gonna have a monstrous Dragon Blade to bring this back, and they do take down Shadow immediately. So the question is here, does the Hang res to get that Dragon Blade up? They're gonna Sound Bear early on, and I think they're just gonna save it here. 2 unanswered kills already, and that Resurrection's still in reserve if necessary.
They don't really need it. It's the insurance in their pocket, although that Mercy had to fly right in front of a Winston, does end up taking too much damage, goes down to Pluke. Back and forth now. Shatter is back in the fight as he went down early. Could use a Dragon Blade to seal this one out, but they get all the kills on the point, flip it back over. Gonna be difficult for Loyal to get back out here.
Loyal now down to their very final attack. One upside here is that they can use Transcendence to set the stage early on, give Flippy a lot of health, and might even see a Deadeye come out from Flippy here to try and do this. So, I mean, Transcend and Sound Bear, very good for keeping her alive on the point. I think Shadow's gonna have difficulty getting anything out of this Dragon Blade, but even if they take this as rough as there's a Deadeye, takes ID out of the sky, and it's an excellent opening here from Loyal where maybe they can save the Transcendence now.
Possible. We'll see what Flippy can get done here. He's trying to operate on the point. It has been Pluke actually doing most of the damage here. Pluke, Ube do combine for a couple kills and 99% on Liquid, but it will be LG Loyal capturing the point there. I am all for hit scan heroes using ultimates just to kill Pharah. It's completely fine by me. Tactical Visor, Deadeye. I mean, Deadeye doesn't get all that much value anyway, so a perfect usage of it there.
Team Liquid now 1 fight away. They're gonna get 2 cracks at this here Hex, but 1 Dragon Blade might be all they need. Shatter holding on to it right now, looking for the opportunity. The rest of Team Liquid coming in on the opposite flank. Shatter very low though, not getting a whole lot of healing in this situation. Has to back out pretty heavily. The counter dive from Loyal definitely splitting off from Liquid, bisecting them to some extent. Gonna force them to regroup here to the left, and they lose AZK. So that still counts as 1 full fight, Hex.
Yeah.
Liquid's gonna regroup, but now they get 1 attempt.
They don't have to go, nor should they go. They need everyone alive for this next push. Meanwhile, passives are charging ultimates. Spree could end this before it starts. He'd end with Transcend. Is going to make it difficult to win this team fight. Also taking a lot of entry damage. Jump comes in, takes out Flippy right away.
It's a Nano Winston. They used the Nano Winston early on to just remove Flippy from the equation. Shatter now in the back line with the Dragon Blade, looking for anything in the back. Not going to get too much, but AZK gets a Pulse Bomb anyway, so it's going to be up to Spree now to try and roll around and bring this back. And this is already desperation coming out here from LG Loyal. That's why you're seeing Flippy come out here on the Sombra, just a delay, overtime in progress. Desperation for Loyal in all senses, because if they lose here, that's the map.
He jumped over it!
No.
He threw his translocator over the point! He thought it was on the point. He was delaying because someone else was on. And Flippy ends up going over the point and no delay. I've seen a lot in Overwatch. I've seen a lot. I've never seen that before, and that's hilarious.
It's also hilarious that I'm just sitting here. I don't know what I'm feeling right now. I am feeling like maybe there's an internal competition on LG Loyal for how can we miss the point in final important situations. I mean, realistically, that was almost certainly going to go the way of Team Liquid anyways, but can we avoid these just dramatic last moment point evasions coming in from members of LG Loyal?
It's literally always in the at the very end too. It's like those are when the biggest things happen to them. But there's a few things to talk about here coming out in it, Paul, as Liquid was able to find victory once again, as they did in this first matchup. This time a little bit more decisively. It actually went to, I think, 5 control points last time. And, well, Liquid definitely looked really strong. But the question I had is about team compositions actually coming into this one, because Immortals, Renegades, LG Evil, they've been going a little bit more to 3 tank comps, whereas we're seeing a lot of the 3 DPS coming out of both sides. So my question is, well, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each, and then how much of it is differences in adaptation versus just team preference?
Well, if we're talking about team compositions, I think there was one incredibly important thing to point out about that last fight, which is that we've been seeing Ana in every composition in recent times. You saw LG Loyal come out with the Zen there at the very end. The Zenyatta is weak to one thing in particular, which was very effective at the end, which is the nano-boosted Winston. The reason why you don't see nano-Winstons anywhere near as much against Ana is because, well, Winston is a very big sleep dart target. If you can hit small, fast-moving things with sleep darts, you can probably tag a Winston as well. So the fact that you don't have a sleep dart as an option to shut down Mezar, that means that was about as auto kill as you get there, where you throw the nano boost on the Mezar, he leaps on the Flippy. What do you do as Flippy? There is nothing they could have done in that final fight to actually protect Flippy there. And that's a matchup thing where if you don't have the sleep dart, you suddenly change who is good the nano boost from the other team.
Primal Rage with Nano Boost on it, that is a giant health pool in the damage and vulnerability. They even hit a pulse bomb onto Winston after that kill, and he still didn't go down. And then the Transcendence kept him alive. So that giant health pool, you're absolutely right. There's nothing you can do. It is the hard counter to that.
And they knew it, they utilized it, and they were able to find victory. Now, on to his credit, Flippy did a pretty all right job as McCree. He had a few impactful plays. He was getting some good headshots. It just wasn't in the cards for them, it seems like, with that one. But the other thing I want to talk about is this interesting dive composition they brought to the stairs fight on Sanctum. Because, I mean, we know how that stairs fight usually goes. You've essentially got two death balls that are just like smashing into each other and pushing back and forth. And honestly, I don't like dive compositions going into death balls. Because unless you dive at perfect synchronicity, you're going into where everyone is just able to focus you down, and it didn't work out very well.
I actually disagree. I think that dive comp worked well there, can be very effective, especially if you're not worrying about things like a Roadhog, because what can happen for Winston is that if you are able to stay alive for any length of time, you are cleaving not 2, not 3, but oftentimes 4, 5, or even 6 people. All you need is a little bit of extra follow through there. Not everyone is going to be healed up immediately in that situation. Yes, it's risky, but there's plenty of times that just the Winston dive in and catching people off guard by coming in can very much win that fight outright.
I completely agree, and it is the synchronicity of it that is the problem, because if you look at the geography of that point, there's nowhere to retreat on stairs once you get dived into. That is a very small corner, and as you mentioned, all the cleave coming through. What happened was their flankers were late on the flank. They had sent their tracer to the left side, and this has been a problem with some of the dive compositions in. The Winston went in maybe too early, or the tracer was too late. Regardless, they didn't hit at the same time. So the tracer saw what was happening, then got out and was unable to finish the kills that Winston set her up for.
Look, part of why we are starting up the Winston adoption program, where we have our giveaway and you can get a mini baby Winston, is that in competitive play, we are seeing a lot of Winstons being abandoned and not supported by their team. And unfortunately, someone needs to give these Winstons the support they need and give them loving homes. So that's part of why we are doing that. But in that case, Pluke definitely could have used some form of support, because you're right. He went in and the flanking support just wasn't there immediately. So instead of something big happening off of the cleave, he just unfortunately died. And that's why if you do get a Winston, please be a responsible Winston owner.
For only one tweet a day, you can make a difference in these Winston's lives.
And you can tweet more than once. You know, there's a lot of plays going on, but maybe just, calm down a little bit if you're trying to get every single play as being the play for the game. But no, other than that, I mean, in that case, I'm really excited to see a dive comp actually be able to find that synchronicity to tackle such a composition as that death ball there getting in behind the Reinhardt. And we'll see if we'll see any of that here on Dorado, as that is our next map coming in. This one selected, of course, by the loser of that last map. And so we're going to see, I guess, why do you think LG Loyal is bringing us onto Dorado? And I mean, have we seen them playing Dorado throughout this event much?
Their offense in Dorado has been great. And for whatever reason, the geography lends itself really well to their dive composition. Again, this was one of their standout moments when it was very early, I think week 1, where it was one of the most synchronized dives I've ever seen. Only outdone by their dive yesterday, actually. So their offense on this map has been good. For whatever reason, their synchronization works out better in the courtyard.
Past tense has been good, because what we saw against Immortals was anything but, where it's a tale of two teams sometimes, where we've seen LG Loyal come out with very good dive offenses powered by Spree, and then yesterday they were not on the same page at all. Spree is falling off cliffs for no discernible reason. And I mean, it's just weird, because LG Loyal, when they're doing well, they're phenomenal. They're great on the beginning of Dorado, and then whatever they were doing yesterday was very much the opposite of what we know they can do. So it's been a tale of two teams, and there's no other way of saying it. Now, we are getting teased again here. Pluke showing us the Orisa, and I mean, for LG Loyal, if you're down 2 maps to 1, this would be really cool to run, and a tank player be the one to run it, but I'm not getting my hopes up. My heart has been broken too many times, and we're only in the first set, Hex.
Orisa, a robot with a purpose beyond just passing butter. Good to see robots getting diversified jobs. We'll see if we ever see Orisa. I just don't think we're going to see it tonight. Definitely not this set, because neither team has shown us any inclination towards it so far.
I mean, how do you think Orisa really felt, though, when she finds out she's rebuilt by a 12-year-old girl and she tells you, you're built from robots that got their butt kicked by Doomfist. Good luck. I mean, at that point, is she just wondering the entire Mercy dilemma of, why have I been brought back into this world?
Dude,
I'm just saying.
The memories of the defeated, are they imbued within her being? It's a good question. This and other philosophical thoughts on the after show with me and ZP, which we don't record or actually do. So no way to tune into that one.
It's usually in the van on the way home, sometimes over Chick-fil-A sauce.
No finer food on the planet, in my opinion. Been a highlight of Denver here. My first time at Chick-fil-A. Did not disappoint. We are not in any way endorsed by them, by the way. Not yet. Well, defense is going to be holding very aggressively. There is a hidden Super Pluke around the corner. There is a hidden Tracer up top. They're waiting to find the target they want to leap in on. They do find a Lucio in the back line. Spree, however, has gone down. Shatter, 2 kills.
Shatter with the dive attack from Team Liquid, striking blood very early on. Mezar right there in the Heat-An, and we've been seeing this over and over again where Mezar just relentlessly pursuing Heat-An, and he's found it difficult to stay alive versus Mezar.
Heat-An would be on the top of my priority list on this team anyway. I think he is the most consistent and probably overall the best player on LG Loyal. The fact he plays supports even makes him that much more important. So if you can isolate Heat-An and make someone else beat you, sure, that sounds like a good plan to me.
Well, Team Liquid with a nice opening here into the courtyard. LG Loyal will have a chance to respawn and get back in here, but the positioning will not be quite as good as it would have been if they did not get wiped out at all. So big opportunity for Team Liquid here to really pile on. Shatter gets poked down really low when trying to go in deep. Rafa dies to Ube, so Shatter's still out of this fight right now. ID tried to pull it back, and AZK able to open a bit to the back, but it's going to be a little bit more of a brawl. And yet, Liquid trading out slightly more efficiently.
Just ever so slightly, though, and now Ube is going to come in on even numbers. Wow, domed is Flippy by ID, so they win that 2v2. It was Ube Flippy versus ID AZK, 2-0 for Liquid.
ID able to stay alive here, and actually, if this fight goes bad, Dahang almost has a resurrection up, so Liquid almost certainly should be able to take this. The question is, how many resources will they have to burn? Heat-An takes a rocket right where he floats, so to speak. 3 kills here from Team Liquid, and this should be a pretty quick take. Ube throwing good money after bad here. There's no way he's going to be able to turn this back. Picks up 1, but just dies Mezar. That was a complete waste of a Dragon Blade.
Some odd things coming out from Loyal there. A positional mistake from Heat-An, all alone in a hallway. No retreat, no teammates around. Goes down for absolutely free. They are going to double down on trying to deal with this pharmacy combo that they haven't had an answer for. I remember like 9 months ago, this was the combo that won them Dorado all alone, and they're looking to do it again.
Well, ID's had a great game here so far, looking for the Lucio pick, looking for a little bit more, and takes down Flippy with 2 well-placed rockets. ID having a heck of a fair game here. Does get gunned down by Spree, but again, Liquid's been training this up pretty well. Now, we do have a fight back here on the payload where Ube is trying to pull it back, and they will do just that. Both teams are split, and both sides of LG Loyal is able to win, so this actually goes against Team Liquid rather decisively.
Yeah, Liquid's still alive, but they were so far forward. They got 0 push out of the fight that they had won. A little bit of a mistake not playing the objective as much as they could have. That card should have been much further given the time that they had to push it. Now they're going to be prioritizing the objective because they have to. It's in their way before they fight. Flippy's going to get jumped on by Mez. Tries to get the damage in, but Mez just pops the Primal Rage instead.
Shadow with the Dragon Blade, getting in here on the Flippy on McCree. Looking for those shots, and no, going to fall down. See that a lot for Genjis, where they just try and get deep into McCree's face once Flashbang is out of the fight. Just anything to make it more difficult to get bopped with a headshot hit. So, Liquid not necessarily cleaning this out super efficiently, but they are trading out a little bit better and should be able to get a decent amount of payload push here in just a moment.
Well, they've won the fights, as you mentioned. They're trading out better, but they don't have a ton to show for it. Cart will finally get moving with the 3x on it, moving at optimal speeds. Now they have entered this is an odd combination. They put ID on the Diva, no fair anymore.
Dahang needs to go down here, and Ube takes him down and pulls out the Dragon Blade. Best of both worlds. Ube in a great position to get some cleanup. Gonna get stymied a bit by the Sound Bearer, though. Ruins the rest of his Dragon Blade, and again has Mezar right in his face, going to be forcing him back, but while Mezar is focusing on Ube, Heat-An, with the rest of his team, able to get onto the payload and push Team Liquid back. So, nice opening there from Ube. Not only does he take away the resurrection threat, he's actually forced to hang off Mercy, period.
Well, that's a nice fight there. Ube on his Genji has had moments of brilliance. They had to use a lot in that fight to stop Liquid, but they have stopped them thus far. 2 minutes left here on the point, and Spree has got a Tracer cornered, forces out the rewind.
I think the bigger thing here is that Hedan's going to get dove on here by Mezar, and it's just going to result in a Transcendence. So this next fight, I think, actually going to be pretty difficult for Team Liquid to win. Pulse Bomb by AZK, though, changes the equation entirely. Picks up 2 before the Transcendence even hits. Oh my goodness, for a fight that could have gone so right for LG Loyal. AZK able to shift the narrative with one very well-placed Pulse Bomb, and that completely opens the door for Team Liquid.
AZK's Tracer has been somewhat quiet in everyday gameplay all throughout the points. I think Flippy's had a better just vanilla Tracer, but the Pulse Bombs have been crushing it from AZK, getting 2 kills at the critical times, too. To open fights is exactly when you want to hit a Pulse Bomb.
It changed the narrative entirely. Hedan would have been able to have a great Transcendence there, but it doesn't matter when 2 people die to a Pulse Bomb early on, and now Loyal just staggering back on the payload, feeding kill after kill, buying a little bit of time, but they're also building Liquid's war chest in the process, so it is a Faustian trade at best.
I complimented ZP on the word Faustian the other day, and now he finds a great way to incorporate it into a cast. Look at the vocab on my boy here. They're going to try to take down this D.Va, the Discord orb, making short order of that. This is the time to maybe switch it comes in. Here comes the Dragon Blade, though.
Ube moving in, looking for anything back, has so many supports in his sights, takes down Dehang. It was Vermont there. Oh, well, yeah. He does get kind of crunched in the back, but that's more of a moral victory for Mezar than anything else. Ube did his damage. He can accept his fate dying to a rampaging scientist with no way out.
Well, here's the one issue I have with that, though, is they did use a sound barrier late into that fight, too, so not going to be up for the next fight. Flippy makes sure that Mezar's not ready for the next engagement either, as we have gone over the 2-minute threshold here. Last couple pushes incoming for Liquid. They need to find a way to, well, one, stop dying like this, staggering out like that. This fight never happened. It should have been a full retreat as soon as Mezar died, but they lost 3 after the fact. They have support ultimates to be able to initiate with. I'm not sure what they want to combo with the Nano here, as we haven't seen Shadow get too many Dragon Blade Nanos, but that would be the best option in my opinion, unless you give it to D.Va.
I'd like to see a Junk Rush here, and they do bait out the Transcendence pretty early on here. Spree coming in aggressively, gonna pick up 2. I have mixed feelings about this here for LG Loyal. It works out, they get the kill, but Liquid is also going to respond really quickly here. This isn't buying as much time as you would want for this. And now you think about the initiation that you're going to have for the next fight. I really want to see Mezar's point of view because he's probably going to get the nano boost here. I think from what we saw last time, they could go to the Shatter, and it's a good option. But I think if you put on Mezar, what stops a nano boosted Winston here?
That's a very good question. Actually, also, post-Nano Boost, he will very likely have Primal Rage, too. So ID
opens with the self-destruct, doesn't get anything. There we go. Sound Bear coming in for Team Liquid. How much is Team Liquid going to push into this? I think they want to save the Nano if they can. And no, Shatter. He gets the Nano Boost, so they're going all in on the Nano Blade, picking up all the kills they want here. And this is actually somewhat okay for LG Loyal. The fact that Liquid felt compelled to burn that many ultimates that close to their spawn means that they're not going to have it here for the final setup here, and it won't be the final push. We're down to the last 30 seconds.
Well, they had to. They were pushing a spawn for 2 minutes. They had no answers getting out of there at all without ultimates. Seemed to be baffled by it. Had to burn them out, but now last push incoming. AZK Pulse Bomb ready.
Pulse Bomb comes out for Flippy, immediately blows up Mezar. Ube, Dragon Blade out, picks up 1, looking for more, but the damage already severe. The Team Liquid down 3 members, and this should be a hold for LG Loyal right before last. Definitely something that they can come back and surpass on an attack of their own. This series, now with the potential of going to 5.
Absolutely. Liquid was trying to bait out Junk Rushes there, and they successfully did, but then it was all for naught, as they simply could not figure out how to get outside of spawn without using ultimates. To use your self-destruct from your own spawn on Gibraltar last, I don't think I've seen that before. They were fully confused by the aggressive nature of LG Loyal towards last there. However, for Dorado, not finishing is not exactly all that surprising, a hard map to finish, and getting it as far as they did, pretty good. There's a lot of places on Dorado where you can stop an offense from pushing, so Liquid not out of this yet. Of course, win condition, very simple for LG Loyal. Get it further than the yellow box on the ground in Gibraltar last.
Well, I mean, you go back to recent history, and LG Loyal was not even able to get through the very first point, so it's weird because, again, we have plenty of game tape where LG Loyal has easily gone through first.
Yeah.
The question is, what are we going to be seeing here, and how is Team Liquid going to deal with it? It is worth noting, though, that Spree will have less pressure on him than before. That auto nerf is a lot more significant in regards to Pharah's living than you might think from the outside. So I'm curious to see how Spree does this here. I hope that Spree has the confidence to just go in very deep, very quickly, because that's when LG Loyal has success. I think where Spree gets a little bit messed up is where he's not sure on what he wants to dive in, stays in the back, is poking Pharah too long, and then whatever coordination LG Loyal might have tends to go to the wayside. So I would just like to see LG Loyal all go in at the same time, pick a target, go from there.
That is, in theory, how it is all supposed to work. However, this is interesting from Liquid. It's a team that hasn't run very aggressive before, but we've seen some of the old guard, as it were, from Overwatch trying to incorporate this into their playbook. Immortals comes to mind, especially. I think you have to be able to provide some pressure on these maps, and Liquid just wants to slow them down as much as possible, so why not take as many fights as possible? That starts with an aggressive defense.
So you gotta expect Mezar just gonna leap right down here, and Team Liquid gonna dive in immediately, and it works out. They find Hedan right away. Mezar once more prioritizing the Zenyatta early on in this dive, and Spree left without a whole lot of support here in the back. Of course, the Zen Orb is gone, and Shatter just slices him down right out of the sky. Very decisive from Team Liquid. They don't lose a single player in this defense.
Which is exactly what you want if you're going to run this aggressive defense. That means you're set up to do the exact same thing again. Everyone takes their positions yet again. They will be looking for Hedan, or Hedan rather, early on, and they just send two after him. Even Rafa was up there. Rafa was the one who got credit on that first kill.
And for Hedan, the trouble is actually just staying alive in this situation when you have Mezar in your face at all times. Fluke gonna lead with the dive in here. Not a whole lot of support, low health, no healing going to him whatsoever. And Liquid, very healthy during all this, very much exchanging well on the poke. And that's just unfortunate. I mean, Fluke had the run for his life early on here. Lucky he's still alive.
Very
and
lucky.
Yes, they get a few trades here, but it's not enough to really get this payload moving forward. Liquid being suffocating, and they're going to have attack visor for the next fight.
One of the reasons you can run this aggressive defense in the composition that they have is that everyone has mobility options to get back in the fight quickly. Winston's going to leap in, AZK of course going to use all his blink, and they're going to send the Lucio back to taxi everyone forward. So the very aggressive roofs are gone, but now look, this is where everyone fights in Dorado anyway.
We're back into the courtyard phase here, and this is where we've seen Spree have very good initiation. So here comes Fluke. Where is Spree here in the fall through? Well, Real's taken down by the Pulse Bomb in the beginning, but Spree finds ID. It's a much better opening here for Loyal so far. Shatter might have to burn this Dragon Blade to pull this back. Certainly still holding on to it as he goes to the back line. Mezar as a support. It's very bloody here, in fact. Both teams down to 3-on-3. Spree still in the air, down a decent amount of healing, and yet still not really under fire to any significant extent. LG Loyal starting to break through.
It's getting bullied out now, but here comes the tactical visor from ID on the flip side of things, able to take down Reels. There goes Flippy as well, so Liquid coming in late with the reinforcements, able to bully out LG Loyal here. We're getting down to it below 2 minutes, ZP. $1:40 left on the clock.
The one upside here for LG Loyal, you take a look at the ultimate situation here. If they can just survive the Nano Blade coming out, they should have what they need to bring this in. And you know, it's pretty good for dealing with Nano Blade. Transcendence can keep people alive within reason. It's a very slim margin, but here we go. Nano Blade's coming in. Hedan immediately there with the Transcendence, keeping everyone alive. The Nano Blade has done nothing here so far. 3 unanswered kills here from LG Loyal. And it works out. The Nano Blade not getting what you want in that situation. And though AZK is still up and around trying to delay this out, I don't think this is going to be enough to keep LG Loyal off first.
No, only 2 kills came in there from Liquid, so still a very healthy team from LG Loyal. They will be able to get first point and extend their run here on Dorado by 3 minutes added to that clock.
Really, for Team Liquid, I think they just need that extra level of coordination where you get a good bio nade towards the very back. Unfortunately, didn't happen. Hedan kept everyone alive, and Shadow was basically swinging at nothing.
Shatter's got to be a little bit careful, does initiate with the dash through to take high ground away. Tahang goes down very early from Spree, but they do trade out with Ube 5v5. Shatter is still alive, doing some damage on the low ground here. Flippy getting bullied out by said Shatter, who is everywhere at once in true ninja fashion. There goes Hedan. That is it for this LG Loyal defense. And Flippy, I thought he was just going to reset off the edge, preferring to take this fight instead. But if he dies, yeah, dying very late.
By not going off the edge, he gives Shatter more ultimate, and Here's the real problem for LG Loyal going forward here right now. They're certainly at a time deficit. Team Liquid and running this divey defense, they're probably not going the full hold over time, but they're going to make every inch take a lot of time. And after that first defense on point A, there's not that much time to give here for LG Loyal. So they need to take this very decisively. And with Hedan going down the Mezar again, I don't think that's going to happen here. They're going to blow the sound barrier, try and bring this back 5v6, but the pulse bomb whiffing, it's difficult. Still trading out back and forth. 4v4 still in this fight. And Team Liquid, they're still very healthy here. It's LG Loyal that's getting poked down more often as we get a little bit of juggling here in the back. This is not a fighting game, but it's starting to resemble it. And Winston on Winston action. Mezar, the superior scientist.
Well, Hedan comes back into it only to be met by Mezar right around the corner yet again. They're trying to stick together, are the supports, but now both are very low. Here comes a D.Va to try to bring him back, but she at least distracts for a moment, as one leap in for Mezar would have eliminated both supports. Despite that, they've completely reset, desuited the D.Va. AZK took that down eventually. They've not been able to take high ground away, and they're getting collapsed upon repeatedly.
LG Loyal is going to need a really phenomenal engage going in here where you have Spree neutralize the Nano Visor coming out from ID, and Ube goes to town and gets at least 2 kills. But as we say, the Shatter already picks up one for free. Hedan out of this fight. ID's out of the fight, though, so I don't have to worry about the Nano Visor, but Shatter getting so much done. No Dragon Blade required. Just dash resets, shutting down the hopes here of LG Loyal.
For a new addition to the team, I think Shatter has really worked on his chemistry with Mezar. Their dives have been working out so well, and they're not always going in together because Shatter's been a one-man band here, but there's often times where Winston comes in, jumps out, then Shatter jumps back in to capitalize on that. Their dive working very well. Here comes a Blade.
Playing out from Shatter, looking to pile on, gets a Nano Boost, looking for anything here, actually having trouble finding stuff early on. ID, though, with that support, 2 kills to 1 in favor of Liquid, and ID still in a great position to pile on over the top, even has Tac Visor, but might not even need to use it here. It is getting to a point where maybe he will, but gets a free kill on the Flippy. Good tracking, no visor required. And now the really big upside here for ID is that he's going to have this Tac Visor for LG Loyal's final attempt here on second.
Final attempt with nothing in the bank. They have to find something we haven't seen from Loyal yet. Winning a fight with no ultimates.
Final push going to be on the way. Team Liquid on the verge of keeping their playoff hopes alive. Loyal, what could be their final fight here in the Carbon Series. About to begin. AZK going to the back. Hedan under pressure again. Almost going down early on this fight. Mezar there with the support, and Hedan falls immediately. 2 kills from Team Liquid. ID pulling the Tac Visor in over the top. Gets the kills he's looking for. Ube and Flippy the flankers. The only ones left remaining here for LG Loyal, but Ube far outgunned here. HP falling at the very end as Mezar picks up the final 2. Overtime slipping away here from LG Loyal. Now it's going to be Team Liquid staying alive, taking down LG Loyal, and making Complexity perhaps a little bit nervous as to their fate here in the Overwatch Carbon Series.
There's a great Onion headline that says, "Man who thought he had lost all hope finds more hope to lose." And Liquid giving hope to a lot of their fans here as they're still alive in this, despite all odds, still alive in the Carbon Series.
What I'm actually thinking of here is Liquid certainly finished for sure, says increasingly nervous man for the 7th time during the OCS.
Yeah, they both work, but Liquid needs a lot to go their way. They're doing their part, though. They're winning the series that they have to win, and despite a lackluster showing in the several weeks, yeah, they've put together 3 match wins here, and it might be enough to steal the 4th seed.
Yeah, they need to get at least one more, though, and that is going to be coming next, or tomorrow, rather.
Yeah, it's just LG Evil, though.
Just LG Evil. No big deal. Don't worry about that one, Team Liquid, as you have given us just a little bit of hope, and that's the exact amount of hope that I get every time I watch you play. One thing we did get to watch quite a bit more is everyone's favorite peanut butter loving scientist of Winston. How are we feeling about not seeing quite as much Reinhardt? Are we feeling good about that?
I mean, it's in vogue right now to not run as much Reinhardt. Clearly, Rogue has been setting more of a standard in that regard, where you don't see Noxum Reinhardt, you see him on Winston, Rain, Sleet, or Shine. I would say the biggest thing here is that you weren't seeing the Ana come out here from LG Loyal. Hedan was very much clutching on the Zenyatta, and while he was clutching onto that Zenyatta, he was running from a rampaging scientist the entirety of the set. And you take a look at those fights, it felt like at least 30 to 40% of the time, Mezar was able to take down Hedan very early. They weren't doing a good job of blowing up Mezar when he came in, and honestly, at that point, I just wonder in theoretical compositions, when do you consider running something like a Reaper to just take down Mezar immediately as he comes in, or at least a Roadhog, something that can blow him up for that aggression, because Hedan was not getting the support he needed there at all.
No, and it's a great game plan from Liquid. As I mentioned, not only is Hedan a support, that's the money on top, but Hedan, I think, is their best player, most valuable player on the entire team. Taking him out, everything falls around them, of course. And you're absolutely right. He needed a bodyguard. I don't even care what kind of bodyguard you are. I would have accepted a McCree. I would have accepted a Roadhog. I would have accepted a Reaper. Someone needs to hang out with him. Reels tried his best to stay with him, but he can only peel for so long, and then Reels gets himself into trouble getting low on HP. Someone who can do damage and deal with the constant, ever-present threat of both Genji and Winston had to be back with Hedan. They didn't adjust to it, and that's why they lost.
And credit where credit is due here on the Team Liquid side, where that was a well-executed game plan. They saw that LG Loyal was not running things needed to protect, and Liquid kept hitting the weak spot over and over again. It was Mezar and Shatter in the back line with AZK repeatedly, and unfortunately for Hedan, there was just no way for him to escape that level of pressure.
Right.
Well, and something we've been seeing from other teams that we talked about something similar with Grim Reality. It's like when they're pulling out McCree at 3 DPS comps, he has no support for himself as everyone else is off doing their own thing. And then we see teams like LG Evil bringing out the 3 tanks with a little bit more. And now we're like, okay, yeah, you do have a Roadhog, you have a Zarya to help keep those key players alive. And yet from these teams, we were seeing a lot more just I want to say haphazard damage, and in those type of scrappy fights, Team Liquid were looking very strong. And so my big question is, how is Team Liquid gonna react, and how are they gonna play against a team that's feeling much more comfortable playing the likes of Roadhog? Just definitely a different play style, and just to see how these teams also play with this new patch and some of the changes that we've seen. And we're going to see a little bit of action coming up here as Team Liquid is still alive in it. They were able to pick up victory 3-1 against LG Loyal, but now they're going to have to sit back and watch as their fate is in the hands of their opponents. Complexity, they would have to lose the rest of their matches for Team Liquid to have a chance at this one. And so we're going to be watching that next as Complexity is going to be facing off against Renegades. We're going to go to a short break, and stay tuned at the beginning of this break because we're going to be showing you your play of the day. Don't go anywhere.
Dragon Blade, very effective, and yet Team Liquid looking like they're going to force the issue. Here comes Nano Blade on the Shatter, picks up 2 immediately with 1 swipe. Devastating stuff from Shatter as he picks up 3. Looking like they're going to force the issue. Here comes Nano Blade on the Shatter, picks up 2 immediately with 1 swipe. Devastating stuff from Shatter as he picks up 3. The Team Liquid first pick up his fair in a great position here early on. Looking for Ana, and Lucian picks up both. It's a double kill on the both supports as ID. Now used for LG Loyal. They are all in on this fight. Dragon Blade expended. 4 kills to 1 for LG Loyal.
It's also hilarious that I'm just sitting here